1. Mind-bending paradoxes. Your mind is about to take a gentle journey into a world where everyday rules seem to dissolve, and where every thought invites you to pause and wonder. Imagine settling into a soft, quiet space where the only sound is your calm breathing and the soothing murmur of ideas that gently nudge your heart. Picture yourself on a cool, clear evening, sitting outside as the stars twinkle above, each one whispering a small secret about the mysteries of life. In this space, we begin a quiet exploration of a thought that challenges what you know, an idea that seems to twist and turn in the quiet corners of your mind, urging you to let go of strict rules and simply be present with the wonder of not knowing. It is like opening a door to a secret garden where everything familiar appears new and every small detail holds the promise of a gentle surprise. As you listen, allow yourself to relax more deeply, feeling the soft touch of this idea as it slowly unfolds with each deep, measured breath. Imagine that each moment in life has more layers than what you see on the surface. The simple act of looking at a familiar object might reveal a hidden depth that gently shakes the grounds of every day. Logic. This is not meant to cause confusion or worry, but is more like a playful dance with thoughts, a quiet reminder that sometimes our minds can hold both answers and delightful mysteries at the same time. With each soft word and every unfolding idea. The notion of mind-bending paradoxes invites you to see that life can be as calm as a whisper and as surprising as a secret waiting to be discovered. In these moments, your thoughts may feel light and free, much like a balloon drifting slowly in a calm sky, lifting you higher away from daily concerns and into a space of gentle wonder and reflection. As you settle into the sound and rhythm of these thoughts, let the idea wash over you gently. There is beauty in noticing that sometimes things that seem impossible at first can reveal an unexpected truth if you only take a moment to listen carefully. Think of it as a kind invitation to let go of rigid ideas about how the world should work. Instead, allow your mind to wander into a space where questions are welcome, and where every little puzzle is a gift that helps you understand that the world is not always as it seems. This gentle curiosity softens the edges of strict reasoning, allowing you to see that every twist and turn in thought is part of a larger, more comforting picture. It is as if the simple act of wandering brings with it a quiet kind of magic, a magic that can lighten even the heaviest moments and fill them with hope and the ease of acceptance. Picture a calm river that winds its way through a quiet forest, where the water flows smoothly despite the rocks that sometimes appear in its path. Just as that river finds its way around obstacles without force, your mind can find beauty in the twisting paths of new ideas. These small puzzles are like gentle ripples on the surface of a calm lake. They invite you to reflect on the nature of truth and to relax into the space where your ideas can drift freely. Each ripple, each fleeting moment of wonder, adds to the deep, soothing rhythm of your thoughts. You might find yourself smiling softly, appreciating the simple truth that every thought, no matter how puzzling it might seem at first, carries within it the seeds of calm and inspiration. There is a light-hearted joy in embracing the unexpected turns of our thoughts. When you welcome the idea of mind-bending paradoxes into your evening, you are not searching for a quick answer, but are instead inviting a slow, steady appreciation of life's many quiet mysteries. In this peaceful state, even the smallest twist in a thought becomes a cherished part of a gentle story that unfolds slowly, like pages turning in a well-loved book. The contrast between what you expect and what unfolds gently before your mind's eye sparks a beautiful sense of curiosity, a curiosity that is soft and comforting rather than sharp or unsettling. Let your mind relax like a soft blanket around your shoulders as you take in each subtle detail of this journey. Each moment, each whispered idea reminds you that it is okay to let go of the need for clear answers now and then. Instead, indulge in the pleasure of simply pondering a small mystery that brings a spark of wonder. It is like finding a delicate flower on a quiet morning path, a flower that invites you to stop, notice its soft colors, and breathe in its gentle fragrance. In a world that often pushes us to always know more and to strive for constant clarity, These paradoxes serve as a kind reminder that sometimes peace comes from embracing the beauty of not knowing everything. Imagine that your mind is like a quiet, deep pool where thoughts and reflections move slowly under the surface. In this pool, every twist of logic is like a small stone gently dropped into the water, its ripples creating patterns of calm and wonder. You might notice that the thought of a mind-bending paradox is much like that gentle stone, creating waves that soothe rather than disturb. The soft stirring of these ideas invites you to reflect on the way life often holds surprises in the simplest moments. Rather than focusing on the need to solve every puzzle immediately, allow yourself the gentle joy of enjoying the mystery, of letting each idea be a small, comforting guide towards deeper rest. There is a natural beauty in these playful puzzles that invite you to see the world in a new light. The idea of mind-bending paradoxes shows you that life is rich with both the expected and the unexpected. It reminds you that sometimes the most profound peace comes from sitting quietly with your thoughts, letting them wander through the landscapes of wonder and calm. As you continue your journey into a state of rest, each soft word and every slow, deliberate breath takes you further into a realm where logic and mystery blend together, offering you the gift of soft relief from the constant demands of everyday life. In these gentle moments, your thoughts become a soft melody, a series of quiet notes that together form a lullaby for your soul. Each note is a small reminder that life is filled with subtleties and that the simple act of wondering can bring more joy and calm than any easy answer could provide. The paradoxes you encounter here are not meant to unsettle you, but to slowly dissolve the weight of relentless questions and replace them with a serene acceptance of life's many little puzzles. Every twist in thought, every moment of gentle curiosity, adds to a growing sense of inner calm, where you find that it is okay to simply be, without the burden of needing to understand everything all at once. As you listen to these calm reflections, know that they are meant to be both a challenge and a source of deep comfort, a playful invitation to let your mind wander freely and to discover that sometimes the simplest puzzles are the ones that lead to the richest feelings of peace. The gentle paradoxes you now explore serve as a soft beacon in the quiet of your night, guiding you towards a place where thoughts can float without pressure, where every idea is a small gift of comfort, and where you are free to enjoy the quiet dance of your inner thoughts. This journey, while it may twist and turn in ways that feel unexpected, ultimately leads you to a space of deep, restorative calm, a space where each moment is cherished, and every gentle thought adds to the tender, unfolding beauty of your night. Take this time to relax and trust in the soft mystery of your thoughts. Allow them to drift like gentle clouds in a vast sky, where nothing has to be rushed or forcefully understood. Each subtle revelation from these mind-bending ideas acts like a soft wave, lulling your mind towards a peaceful rest and a quiet appreciation for the beautiful, ever-changing nature of existence. In this quiet space, let the powerful rhythm of your heart keep time with the gentle flow of each soft idea. Embrace the playfulness of thought as a source of deep comfort, knowing that every small mystery in your mind is a bridge to a deeper sense of calm and a more relaxed state of being. In this relaxed reflection, you discover that sometimes the richest moments of peace come from the soft glow of a question and the tender acceptance that not all mysteries need to be solved in one moment. 2. Timeless logic puzzles. Close your eyes for a moment and picture a small, peaceful room lit only by the soft glow of a single candle. There is no rush, no noise, no pressure, just the gentle flicker of light and the stillness that makes everything feel calm. In this quiet space, we begin to explore something simple yet endlessly fascinating. Small puzzles of logic that have lived through time. They have no need to be solved quickly. They ask for nothing but your presence. They are like old friends telling quiet stories. Stories that make you think in new ways, while also helping you feel completely relaxed and safe. Imagine a puzzle so simple it fits in a single sentence, yet the more you think about it, the more it opens up. You sit with it, hold it in your mind, and it slowly reveals little secrets. These kinds of puzzles have traveled through time, passed from one curious mind to another, not to confuse, but to remind us how beautiful thinking can be. They're not about showing how clever you are. They're about slowing down, about listening closely, about letting your thoughts move like soft waves over smooth stones. They're quiet companions in a noisy world. Let your breathing match the rhythm of these thoughts. Slow, steady, gentle. You don't need to chase answers. Just being with. The puzzle is enough. One such puzzle might ask, if a barber shaves everyone in town who does not shave themselves, who shaves the barber? It's a little sentence, but inside it, a strange loop hides. You don't need to solve it. Just feel how the idea loops and turns, gently playing with your sense of order. It's like watching a leaf spin slowly as it falls. It doesn't have to land yet. Just floating is enough. These puzzles ask you to look at things differently. They don't shout. They whisper. And in those soft whispers, you hear something both old and fresh, an echo from minds long ago that thought deeply, then smiled at the mystery they had created. You are now part of that quiet chain of thought. It connects you to all the others who have sat in stillness, wondering gently. There is comfort in knowing you are not alone in your thoughts. These small puzzles are timeless because they carry no age. They belong to anyone who slows down to listen. Let another one settle into your mind. This statement is false. It's short, simple, but it twists itself as soon as you look at it. If it's false, then it must be true. But if it's true, then it must be false. And so the loop begins, not to confuse, but to soften the lines between what is and what could be. You may smile at the idea, letting your thoughts float around it like a feather in the breeze. The point isn't to catch it, but to follow its gentle movement and enjoy the stillness it leaves behind. These little puzzles don't demand energy from you. They don't ask for speed or sharpness. They invite you to soften, to ease into a slower kind of thinking. They let you sit with ideas like you sit beside a quiet lake, still, watching, thinking slowly, feeling deeply. And as your body begins to sink deeper into relaxation, your mind stays light, playful, and peaceful. These puzzles don't need to be solved tonight. In fact, it's better if they aren't. That way they stay with you, quietly drifting through your thoughts like gentle clouds on a calm evening. Let yourself enjoy a riddle from ancient times. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? It's a gentle paradox, one that feels like a soft breath on your skin. It leads nowhere quickly, but the journey it offers is slow and comforting. It reminds you that not everything must be answered. Some questions live simply to be wondered about, and in that wandering we find quiet joy. You may not find an answer, but you will find rest. Peace lives in the space between the puzzle and the solution. As you lie there, thoughts quieting, feel how these puzzles create small ripples in your mind. Not sharp or overwhelming, just gentle ripples that rock you slowly into deeper thought and softer dreams. It's like listening to the soft ticking of an old clock. Time slows down. There is no hurry. Each puzzle is like a warm cup of tea for your thoughts, holding just enough heat to make you feel alive, yet never too hot to disturb your rest. With each word spoken, you are drawn closer to that place where sleep begins to take your hand. Now picture yourself in a quiet room filled with old books. Their pages carry puzzles whispered across centuries. You don't need to open them all. Just knowing they are there is enough. Their presence brings a feeling of calm, like an old song that gently plays in the background of your thoughts. These puzzles, like the air in the room, are part of you. Now, soft, steady, constant. They are the quiet hum of your inner world, guiding you gently toward rest. You might find your breathing slower now. Each inhale brings comfort. Each exhale lets go. These timeless puzzles are not here to challenge your peace. They are here to hold it. They are the thoughts that keep you company when the world becomes too loud. And in this still moment, they are enough. You are enough. No answers are needed. No endings are required. The puzzle is the piece. So now, let the last few thoughts come like soft waves reaching the shore. You've walked through ideas that don't need to make sense tonight. You've listened to old riddles, letting them carry you further away from the rush of the day. And now, as you lie still, held by the quiet, let those puzzles continue to float around you, like stars drifting across a slow-moving sky. They will keep moving while you rest. They will whisper softly while you sleep. You don't need to solve anything now. You are allowed to let go. Let the timeless logic puzzles keep you company as you drift into deeper rest. Let them circle gently in your dreams, not to confuse but to comfort, not to solve but to soothe. And when you wake, they will still be there, soft, light, waiting for another quiet moment to speak to you once again. For now, you can rest. The puzzles will wait. 3. Eternal thought loops. Take a deep breath, slow and calm. Imagine yourself lying under a quiet sky, with stars above and the soft rhythm of your heart below. Everything feels still. Time slows down. In this peaceful space, your mind becomes a gentle companion walking softly beside you. And now it starts to follow a thought, one simple, curious idea that circles slowly, never rushing, never pushing. This is where we begin, with something that doesn't ask for answers, just attention. Something called an eternal thought loop. These loops are not loud or confusing. They are soft, delicate threads of thought that stretch quietly through your mind, turning again and again. You might think you've reached the end, only to realize you're back where you started. But there's no need to be surprised or unsettled. Instead, there is comfort in the repetition, like the steady tick of a clock, or the gentle waves of the sea brushing the shore again and again. Each return to the beginning feels like a soft reminder that you don't have to figure everything out. You just have to be here, present, relaxed. Let one of these thoughts settle into your mind. A question like, if you try to fail and succeed, which have you done? It loops gently, tugging at the edges of your thinking. You turn it around slowly. Try to find the end, but before you know it, you're right back at the start. This simple loop becomes a soft motion in your mind, a pattern, a rhythm, something familiar and calming. It gives your thoughts something light to hold on to as the rest of the world fades into quiet. There is something deeply peaceful about letting your thoughts drift in circles. The loop never gets sharper, never breaks. It's smooth like a wheel turning in soft grass. It doesn't demand attention. It invites it. There's no need to chase meaning or rush toward a solution. The thought will return on its own, over and over, like a song with no end, humming gently in the background. And as it hums, your body continues to relax. Your breathing slows. Your eyes feel heavier. You may notice now that these loops, though puzzling, are strangely soothing. They are small questions that feel endless, like, can you ever truly know that you know nothing? As you think about it, you might smile softly. It's not about confusion, it's about curiosity. A kind of curiosity that asks nothing of you but stillness. It's the kind of thinking that gently rocks your mind like a cradle back and forth, keeping you safe and calm as you drift deeper into the quiet. These thought loops don't live in books or classrooms. They live in quiet moments, in the spaces, between distractions, in the pause between questions and answers. They appear when the world grows silent and the mind is free to wander. And when they do, they carry with them a sense of peace, like walking a familiar path in the forest and finding joy not in reaching the end, but in each step, each breath, each gentle turn. Let your mind follow another loop. If you could live forever, but nothing ever changed, would it still feel like life? The question folds in on itself, turning like a soft ribbon. It holds no firm answer, and that's okay. It's not here to be solved. It's here to be felt, to be held gently in your mind like a small flame that flickers but never goes out. It lights the way not to a destination, but to a deeper place inside, one filled with quiet wonder and gentle dreams. Eternal thought loops are like mental lullabies. They move in soft circles, lulling the brain into slower rhythms, into calm. The beauty of these loops is not in solving them, but in letting go inside them, just like watching rain fall on a window. There is no goal, just the sound, the motion, the feeling. These thoughts do the same. They draw your attention away from the noise of the day and toward something much softer, much kinder. A space where thinking is not work, but rest. You may begin to feel your body sink deeper now into the bed or couch or wherever you rest. The loops move quietly in the background. They are still there, like a soft melody. But they do not need your full focus. They do not need you to try. They are simply here, like the slow rhythm of the wind or the soft turning of pages in an old book. They remind you that it's okay not to understand everything. Some things are meant only to be felt, slowly, with ease. Imagine now, your mind is like a lantern. These looping thoughts are the flame inside, small, steady, warm. The flame does not flicker too fast. It stays calm, it burns gently, and each loop keeps it alive. Every time the thought comes back around, the flame grows softer, safer, warmer. You don't need to think hard. Just let the thought carry itself. Let the loop return again and again, like a quiet voice saying, "You're safe. You're okay. Let go." In these circles, we find rest. In this endless turning of simple ideas, we find something rare. Peace that doesn't ask for anything in return. You don't need to win, solve, finish, or fix. Just listen. Just breathe. Just be. Let the thought loop wrap around you like a soft blanket, tucking you into a space where even the most puzzling idea can be your friend. A gentle friend who stays by your side through the night. And now, as sleep begins to touch your thoughts, let one final loop drift through your mind. If dreaming feels real, and waking feels like a dream, which one is truly real? Let that soft question circle around and around. No need to catch it, no need to hold on. Just let it float. Let it move. Let it rock you gently, like a boat, on a calm lake. The loop continues, even as your thoughts grow quieter. It whispers slowly, patiently. There is no end. Only rest. Only peace. Only this moment and the gentle sound of a question turning like a leaf in the breeze. And as you drift now into softer, deeper sleep, the loop will stay with you, a quiet hum in the background of your dreams, keeping you calm, keeping you safe. Let it carry you now. Let it guide you gently, like a lullaby made of thought and sleep. 4. Uncertainty meets certainty. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet forest. The path before you is clear, but the woods around it are filled with soft shadows, gentle movements, and shapes that shift in the dim light. You know the path is real, is solid, certain, but everything around it is unknown. This is where the mind often walks, between what it knows and what it doesn't, between clarity and mystery, between certainty and uncertainty. And somehow, in this place where the two meet, there is peace, there is calm, and maybe even a kind of comfort. Our minds are built to search for answers. We want things to make sense. We want the pieces to fit. But sometimes the most peaceful moments come not from knowing everything, but from realizing that not knowing is okay. It's like watching the stars appear one by one in the sky. You know they're there, even if you don't understand all of them. You feel their presence. And that feeling, that quiet knowing in the middle of the unknown, is where the mind begins to rest. Think of it like this. Every time we are sure of something, there's always a small part of us that wonders. Even in the strongest belief, a tiny question sometimes whispers, and every time we feel unsure, there's often something steady underneath that reminds us we are still here, that we are safe, that we can breathe. That is the meeting point, that soft, quiet space where uncertainty and certainty sit side by side, holding hands. You may have felt this before, without even realizing it, like when you walk into a new place for the first time. Everything is unfamiliar. You don't know where things are or how it will feel. But at the same time, you trust yourself to move through it. You trust your steps, your breath, your presence. That mix of not knowing and still going forward is something deep inside all of us. and it's what makes the mind both curious and calm at the same time. As you lie back now, listening, breathing slowly, your own thoughts begin to soften. You don't need to choose between certainty and uncertainty. You can hold both gently. You can let one hand reach into the unknown while the other stays grounded in what you know to be true, your breath, your heartbeat, your quiet presence in this moment. That is enough. That is all you need. Let's try something together. Imagine a simple question. What if everything happens for a reason, but we never know what that reason is? It's a question that touches both sides at once, the comfort of meaning and the mystery of not knowing. It sits right in the middle, and just by thinking about it, your mind begins to wander. But not in a chaotic way. It drifts gently like a leaf on a slow-moving stream. It carries you, not toward an answer, but toward a deeper stillness. In life, we're often taught to find clarity, to be certain. But clarity isn't always loud. It can be soft, like the quiet understanding that even if you don't know what comes next, you can still take the next step. Even if the future is unclear, this moment is clear. You are here, you are breathing, you are okay. And that's enough. That's where the peace lives, not in solving everything, but in trusting yourself in the middle of everything. There's something beautiful about knowing that some things can't be known. It opens space in the mind. It allows the thoughts to stretch, to relax, to move in softer patterns. It's like watching fog roll over a quiet valley. You don't need to see every detail to feel its beauty. The mystery becomes part of the calm, and the calm becomes part of you. You may find your body growing heavier now, more relaxed. Your thoughts are no longer rushing. They are floating between what you know and what you don't, and feeling safe in both. You don't need to figure out the future. You don't need to understand every question. You are allowed to rest in the middle, to breathe in the space where uncertainty meets certainty, because that space is not empty. It is full of quiet, soft thoughts. It is full of the kind of peace that doesn't need answers to exist. And sometimes, the most powerful kind of certainty is the kind that whispers instead of shouts. It doesn't force itself. It doesn't need to be loud. It just sits quietly, like a warm light in a dark room. You may not see the whole space, but you can see enough to know you're safe, and that's all the mind needs to rest. Now let's take one more step together. Picture a question like this. What if not knowing is part of the plan? It's not a question that begs to be solved. It's a question that invites you to pause, to wonder, to breathe. It turns the unknown into something gentle, something soft, something that doesn't take from you but gives you room to think slowly, to dream quietly, to sleep deeply. And as your thoughts begin to drift toward rest, let this truth settle softly in your heart. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to hold both certainty and uncertainty. They are not enemies. They are quiet companions. They walk with you always, one holding your hand, the other lighting the path just far enough ahead for the next step. So now, in this quiet moment, let go of the need to understand. Let your thoughts wander freely. Let your breath guide you gently into sleep. The questions will wait. The answers may come, or they may not. But none of that matters now. What matters is this soft, quiet feeling. The peaceful space where uncertainty meets certainty, and where your mind, at last, can rest. 5. Rationality becomes irrational. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture yourself standing in a quiet room where the air is still, the light is soft, and the silence feels like a blanket around you. Everything seems to make sense. Things are in their place, thoughts are clear, and the world feels steady. But then, gently, something shifts. A single idea enters the room. Not loud, not confusing, just a small twist in logic. And suddenly, what felt like a strong reason began to ripple. What seemed obvious becomes uncertain. This is where rationality slowly begins to slip into something less solid, into a strange, beautiful space where it no longer behaves the way we expect. We all like to believe that logic is our safe ground, that reason is like a straight path through a forest, helping us avoid the unknown, and most of the time, it works that way. But sometimes, even logic plays tricks. Sometimes, it takes us in circles or leads us to strange conclusions. It's like following a perfect map that suddenly folds in on itself, leaving you right back where you started. And instead of frustration, there's wonder. A curious, quiet smile, because it's in these moments that our minds let go of control and start to rest. Imagine a simple question like, can a barber who shaves all those who do not shave themselves shave himself? It seems clear at first, but as your mind steps into it, the floor begins to move. If he shaves himself, he shouldn't. But if he doesn't, he must. Back and forth it goes. The loop starts, and the more you try to solve it, the more the logic turns in on itself. It's not broken, it's just different. And that difference is soft and soothing, like drifting slowly into a dream where the rules no longer need to make sense. The beauty of this space is not in solving the puzzle, but in letting the puzzle hold you. There's no need to be correct, no pressure to understand. Rationality becomes a gentle wave instead of a hard line. It flows, bends, and softens. The lines between what is logical and what is not begin to blur. You're no longer trying to control the thought. You're letting it float, like a paper boat in calm water. It drifts, it turns, it dances without direction, and that's where peace begins. Let your thoughts rest in another idea. What if going faster makes you slower? Or what if trying to be perfect led to more mistakes? These thoughts sound like riddles, but they come from reason itself, a kind of reason that has turned inward, that questions its own shape. And as your mind follows these ideas, it begins to relax. You're not being tested. You're being gently guided away from the hard edges of thinking and into the soft center of quiet reflection. It's comforting to know that not everything must add up, that even the most logical thoughts can fold into mystery. It reminds us that the mind is not a machine. It's a living, breathing space where thoughts can change shape, where ideas can stretch and twist and still be safe. And when rationality becomes irrational, it doesn't mean you're lost. It means you've entered a deeper part of the mind, a place where thoughts can dream. There's a calm in this dreamlike logic, a feeling of freedom, the kind of freedom you feel when watching clouds pass overhead, changing, moving, never staying the same. You don't try to control them. You just watch. You let them come and go, the same way you let these thoughts drift by. Thoughts that once felt like answers now become gentle questions, and the questions don't need answers at all. They're just soft shapes in your mind, helping you unwind. Think of how often we try to make everything make sense. We plan, we organize, we explain. But late at night, when the world gets quiet, the mind wants something else. It wants space. It wants to wander. And these irrational pieces of rationality give it the perfect place to go. They let the mind play, not loudly, but softly, like a quiet game with no rules and no need to win. Now listen closely to one more idea. What if the more you learn, the less you know? At first, it sounds confusing, but sit with it. Feel the curve of the thought. It bends inwards, not outwards. It folds gently, like a blanket wrapping around you. It doesn't need to make sense. It only needs to be there, a thought to walk beside you as you drift deeper into stillness. The mind does not need to always be sharp. Sometimes it needs to blur, to soften, to forget the rules it made for itself and rest in a world where reason and dreams meet, where up can be down and left can feel like right, and none of it needs fixing. It all just is, and in that being, your mind lets go. Your body becomes heavy. Your breath slows. Rationality becoming irrational is not a failure of the mind. It is a gift, a gentle reminder that even the strongest thoughts can rest, that even the clearest logic can take a break and float. And as you follow these strange and quiet thoughts, your mind is doing exactly what it needs to do, letting go, sinking down, drifting off. So now, in this soft moment, let your thoughts keep turning. Let them swirl like gentle wind in tall grass. Let them fold and unfold like the slow movement of a dream. Don't chase them. Don't solve them. Just feel the calm in not knowing. Feel the peace in not needing answers. This is your space, your stillness, your time to rest. Let the thought fade now. Let everything become quiet and sleep. 6. Logic defies reality. Close your eyes for a moment and let yourself feel the quiet. Picture a place where everything seems familiar. The walls, the floor, the air around you. It feels real, solid, certain. But somewhere deep inside, there's a subtle tug, a quiet whisper that makes you question what you thought was true. What if everything you know about reality isn't exactly the way it seems? What if logic itself, that solid foundation of reason, could stretch and bend, defying everything you thought was possible? Imagine walking in a room where the door is locked, yet you find yourself on the other side. How did that happen? It doesn't make sense, does it? And yet it's real in its own strange way. This is where logic defies reality. A place where the rules you've known all your life suddenly stop working. It's as if the world around you begins to play tricks, gently challenging your understanding of what's real and what's imagined. You don't need to fight it. Instead, you can let go. You can rest in this strange space, knowing that you don't have to make sense of everything to feel safe, to feel calm. Sometimes things just are. And that's enough. Think about a simple paradox. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? At first, it seems easy enough to answer, yes, of course it makes a sound. But then, as you think more, something happens. You begin to wonder, what if sound only exists when someone is there to hear it? What if sound is not a thing at all, but a perception? Now logic begins to stretch. It bends around the edges of what you know. And for a moment, reality itself feels like it's shifting. The world isn't what you thought it was. It's more than that. It's not just real. It's a mystery, a puzzle you don't need to solve, but just enjoy observing as it unfolds. This is the kind of thought that relaxes the mind. It invites you into a space where everything doesn't have to fit perfectly. In fact, the more you try to hold on to logic in a world where logic bends and shifts, the more you might feel yourself slip into a deeper, softer place. It's a place where thinking becomes less about reaching answers and more about simply being. Being with the uncertainty. Being with the wonder. Being with the idea that maybe, just maybe, things don't have to be as rigid as they seem. Now, imagine you're walking down a path. It's quiet, peaceful. The leaves on the trees rustle gently in the wind. Everything feels natural, expected. But then, out of nowhere, you see a path that curves in the opposite direction, an unexpected turn. You hesitate, not sure whether to follow it or stay on the familiar road. It doesn't make sense. The logic of the path you are on tells you to keep going straight, but something inside you urges you to follow the unexpected curve. You take the step. And as you do, the world around you shifts again, gently, almost imperceptibly. The logic of the world you thought you understood starts to fade, replaced by something softer, more open, more mysterious. Reality, as it was, no longer holds the same grip. This is the beauty of logic defying reality. It's not about things becoming illogical. It's about realizing that the world doesn't always have to make sense. There's comfort in that. Comfort in knowing that you don't have to solve every puzzle, that you don't have to understand every piece of the world around you. Sometimes, the most peaceful moments come not from solving a mystery, but from letting it be a mystery. It's like a dream. Things don't always add up in the way you expect, but they still carry a kind of meaning that doesn't need to be explained. It's in the feeling of the wind against your skin, in the quiet pulse of your breath, in the soft hum of the world that surrounds you. There's something powerful about letting logic stretch beyond its limits. It reminds us that reality is not just what we can touch and see, but also what we can feel. It's what we sense beyond the facts. What if the world you think you know is only one part of a much bigger picture? What if logic in all its strength is just a small piece of something much more vast, much more complex? Maybe, just maybe, logic itself is a way of guiding you into the unknown, into the places where reality fades and new possibilities begin to emerge. In this moment, as your body begins to relax, allow your thoughts to drift toward this idea. What if everything you've known about the world is just one version of reality? What if there are other versions, quieter, softer, hidden just beyond your reach? Logic tells you one thing: this is how the world works. But as you lie here, letting go of the need to understand, you open yourself up to something else, something deeper, something beyond what can be explained by reason alone. And, as your mind floats in this space, you feel lighter, freer. The world begins to feel more fluid, more open. You don't need to define it. You don't need to hold on to it. You just need to be with it. This is where logic defies reality. It's where the lines blur, where the edges soften. It's where the mind is free to wander, to explore the mystery of the world without needing to solve it. And in that wandering, in that letting go, the mind begins to relax. The body follows. And in the soft quiet of it all, you realize that not everything needs to make sense. Not every question needs an answer. Sometimes, the beauty is in the mystery. The peace is in the wonder. As you breathe deeper, allow yourself to drift into this space. The world is not a puzzle you need to solve. It's a place to be, a place to experience, a place where logic can bend and shift, where reality doesn't have to be fixed. And in that softness, in that open space, you find rest, you find peace, you find sleep. So let go. Let the logic of the world bend. Let reality shift. And rest, in the comfort of knowing that not everything needs to make sense. Sometimes, the most peaceful moments come when we stop trying to make sense of everything. And in this peace, you can finally rest. 7. Perception questions everything. Imagine for a moment that everything around you is exactly as you see it. The world feels real, solid, tangible, just as you expect. You can see the trees, the sky, the people. Everything seems to fit perfectly in the way you understand it. But what if I told you that what you perceive as reality might not be reality at all? What if the way you see the world is just one of many perspectives, and what you think is true could be questioned, twisted, and reshaped? Perception, that quiet observer that guides us through life, questions everything. It challenges the very idea of what we think we know and invites us into a space where the rules no longer apply. Perception is not as simple as seeing the world with your eyes. It's how you interpret what you see, how you make sense of the things around you. It's not just about looking, it's about understanding. But what if understanding isn't always clear? What if the way you interpret the world shifts and changes with every thought? One moment, you're sure of something. The next, that certainty slips away, replaced by doubt, uncertainty, and the hum of curiosity. This is where perception questions everything. Let's think about the simplest things we take for granted. Take a cup of water, for example. To most, it's just a cup of water. Clear, simple, nothing more. But what if I told you that this cup, this clear liquid, could mean something completely different depending on how you look at it? What if, in one moment, that water becomes something else? A memory, a symbol, an emotion. What if the same cup could carry a different weight depending on the lens through which you view it? Perception challenges the way we understand even the most familiar things. It asks, is this really just a cup of water or is it something more? In the same way, perception challenges the way we see ourselves. We often think we know who we are based on our experiences, our feelings, and our thoughts. But what if who we think we are is only a small part of the bigger picture? What if our sense of self is shaped by forces beyond our control, by things we cannot see or fully understand? What if the person you think you are is just one version of yourself, one filtered through the lens of your own perception, and there are countless others waiting to be discovered? This is the mystery of perception. It questions everything, even the most fundamental parts of our identity. Take a moment to think about something you truly believe is true. Maybe it's something small, like the color of your favorite shirt, or something big, like your thoughts on life. Now, close your eyes and imagine that belief isn't true anymore. What would happen if that certainty you held on to, that sense of knowing, shifted? Suddenly, your world begins to feel different. The beliefs that once seemed solid are now questioned, no longer fixed in place. They start to float, shifting like sand, and you realize that perception, in its quiet way, has the power to change everything. It invites you to question the very foundation of what you think you know, and as you settle into this feeling, something peaceful begins to unfold. Because questioning doesn't have to feel like an unsettling force. It doesn't need to bring chaos or confusion. It can be gentle. It can be relaxing. In fact, it often is. When you let go of the need to have everything figured out, when you allow your perception to question and reshape your world, you begin to experience a soft release. There's no need to cling to certainty. There's no need to hold on to things that are only temporary, that are only seen through one lens. Instead, you can embrace the unknown, let it wash over you like a gentle wave, and relax into the beauty of what is. Perception opens up a world of possibilities, where you are free to see things in a new light. It's not about right or wrong, good or bad. It's about seeing beyond what you know. It's about shifting your focus, letting go of rigid boundaries, and allowing yourself to explore new ways of understanding. Maybe the world isn't as simple as we make it. Maybe our understanding of what's real, what's important, and what's true is constantly in flux. And instead of fighting this, instead of trying to make everything fit neatly into a box, we can learn to relax and enjoy the freedom of not knowing. In this space, perception guides you gently into new perspectives, and the more you let it flow, the more peaceful you become. The beauty of perception questioning everything is that it frees you from the confines of certainty. You don't have to hold on to fixed ideas anymore. You can rest in the uncertainty, the mystery, the space between what you know and what you don't. And as you rest in this space, you begin to realize that it's not about finding the right answer. It's about being open to whatever comes. It's about being open to the fluidity of the world and allowing yourself to see it from different angles. The world is full of different perspectives, and each one offers a new way of experiencing reality. Perception teaches us that there's no single way to see the world, no single truth that defines everything. Instead, there are many truths, many layers, many possibilities. And the more we allow ourselves to see these layers, the more we expand our understanding. We don't need to cling to one version of reality. We can relax into the beauty of uncertainty, knowing that perception is always shifting, always questioning, always inviting us to see things in a new way. So, as you lie here, let your mind drift through this idea. Allow perception to take you on a gentle journey. Don't try to make sense of everything. Let the world question itself. Let your thoughts question everything they've ever known, and in that questioning, you'll find peace. You'll find freedom. You'll find rest. Because when you let perception question everything, you realize that it's not about having all the answers. It's about enjoying the journey, letting go of the need to understand, and simply being in the moment. And in that moment, everything makes sense in a way that is more beautiful than logic can explain. 8. Truth obscures truth. What if I told you that the more you search for truth, the further it might seem to slip away? What if, in your quest to find answers, you discovered that truth itself could sometimes cloud the very answers you're looking for? It's an unsettling thought, isn't it? But it's also a fascinating one, because it forces you to rethink everything you know about truth and how we understand the world around us. Truth, in its purest form, can be elusive. It can sometimes obscure itself, hidden behind layers of perception, interpretation, and expectation. The harder you chase it, the more it can feel like it moves just out of reach, slipping through your fingers like water. But why is that? We are taught from an early age that truth is something we must find, something concrete, something that stands strong and unmoving. It's often presented as something to seek out, to grasp, to hold on to for security. But as we go through life, we start to realize that the truth is not always that simple. The truth can be complicated, shifting, layered with nuances that make it difficult to fully understand. Sometimes the truth we are looking for is not a single, clear answer, but a collection of many smaller truths, each one offering a different perspective. And in this process of uncovering truth, the very act of seeking it can cloud your ability to truly see it. Think about a moment in your life when you were absolutely certain of something. You knew it to be true, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Maybe it was a belief, a decision, or a memory that you held onto tightly. It felt solid. It felt like the truth. But then over time, something started to change. New experiences, new information, new perspectives began to challenge that certainty. Slowly, you began to see that your understanding of the truth was not as clear as you once thought. The truth, in fact, had layers, hidden depths that you hadn't considered before. The more you searched for the truth, the more it seemed to transform, to shift, to become something different. And in that transformation, the truth you once held so tightly to become obscured by the very search for it. This is the paradox of truth. It can be both revealing and obscuring. When we think we have found the truth, we may have only scratched the surface. What seemed like an absolute, unchangeable fact can often evolve as we uncover more layers. And in that evolution, we find that the truth we believed in is not as solid as we once thought. It shifts, it bends, it adapts to the light of new experiences. This constant movement of truth can be unsettling, but it can also be freeing. It frees us from the need to cling to rigid, unyielding truths and allows us to live in the fluidity of understanding. It teaches us that it's okay not to have all the answers, and that sometimes the search for truth is more important than the truth itself. There is a kind of peace in accepting that truth is not always clear-cut. In fact, sometimes the truth can be a source of confusion. We often feel that finding the truth will bring clarity and resolution, but in many cases, the truth can lead us to more questions. It's a bit like peeling back layers of an onion. As you remove one layer, another appears, and the more you peel, the deeper you go into the complexity of what you thought you understood. The more truth you uncover, the more you realize that there is always more to discover. This constant revelation can make truth seem like a moving target, always changing, always out of reach. But there's a beautiful irony in this process. The search for truth, while it can obscure our understanding, also invites us to see the world with new eyes. It encourages us to question our assumptions, to look beyond the surface, to explore different angles and perspectives. Truth doesn't always have to be something we can define or grasp. Sometimes it's about experiencing the world as it is, in all its complexity and uncertainty. The search for truth becomes less about finding the perfect answer and more about embracing the journey, allowing yourself to be open to the many truths that exist in the world. This is where the beauty of truth obscuring itself comes into play. When you stop focusing on finding a single, definitive truth, you open yourself up to the possibility that there are many truths, each one valid in its own way. The truth that one person holds may be different from the truth that someone else sees, but that doesn't make either one less important. Truth becomes something that is relative, something that is shaped by our experiences, our perceptions, and our understanding. And in this space where truth is not fixed but fluid, we find a kind of freedom. We are free to see the world not in black and white, but in shades of gray, where different truths coexist and shape our understanding. As you reflect on this, think about the things in your life that you once believed to be absolute truths. Perhaps they were things you learned as a child, beliefs you've held onto for years, or ideas that have shaped your identity. Now, think about how your understanding of those truths may have shifted over time. Have your beliefs changed? Have your perspectives expanded? If so, you are experiencing the process of truth obscuring itself. What seemed certain before is now a bit more complicated, a bit more nuanced, and that's okay. In fact, it's part of the beauty of living a thoughtful, engaged life. Truth doesn't have to be a rigid, unchanging concept. It doesn't have to be something we hold on to tightly, something we fight to defend. Instead, we can approach truth with an open mind, ready to let it shift and change as we grow. And in doing so, we can learn to let go of the need for certainty, embracing the beauty of uncertainty. Because in the end, it's not about the truth itself, but about how we engage with it. It's about being open to the many different truths that exist and allowing them to shape our understanding in a way that is ever-evolving, ever-changing, and ultimately ever peaceful. So as you rest in this moment, allow yourself to let go of the need to have everything figured out. Let truth be fluid. Let it shift and change as it will. And in that gentle acceptance, find the peace that comes from knowing that the search for truth is as important as the truth itself. Because sometimes the greatest truth is found in the quiet space where we stop looking for answers and simply allow ourselves to experience the world as it is. 9. Reasoning meets mystery. Have you ever found yourself in a moment where logic just doesn't seem to fit? A moment when reasoning leads you down a path, but then, unexpectedly, something happens that simply can't be explained? It's as if the mind's need for order and structure collides with the unknown, creating an almost magical tension between what we understand and what we can never fully grasp. This is the fascinating intersection where reasoning meets mystery, a place where logic encounters the limits of human understanding and the boundaries of certainty begin to blur. It's a place where the mind is both stretched and humbled, forced to acknowledge that there is more to life than simple cause and effect. And when we let go of our need for complete answers, something beautiful happens. We make space for the mystery to unfold. Reasoning at its core is a powerful tool. It's the process through which we connect the dots, solve problems, and navigate the world. It brings structure to our thoughts, turning chaos into something more manageable. Through reasoning, we can predict outcomes, understand consequences, and make informed decisions. It's how we solve puzzles, how we understand science, and how we find patterns in the universe. Reasoning allows us to look at a problem and break it down logically, finding a clear path from the question to the answer. It gives us a sense of control, a sense of certainty, and for many, this is incredibly reassuring. But then there's the mystery, the parts of life that don't fit neatly into our logical frameworks, the questions that don't have clear answers, the moments that leave us puzzled, wondering if there's something we're missing or if perhaps some answers are simply beyond our grasp. Mystery is the part of life that resists explanation, the part that seems to slip just out of reach no matter how hard we try to understand it. It's the strange coincidences, the inexplicable feelings, the moments when we know something is true but can't explain why. Mystery doesn't adhere to logic. It doesn't follow the rules we've set for reasoning. Instead, it plays in the spaces where understanding falters, where the mind cannot fully explain what it experiences. So, what happens when reasoning and mystery meet? It's almost as if the mind is caught between two worlds, the world of logic and the world of the unknown. On one hand, you have the need for clarity, for facts, for rational explanations, and on the other, you have the realization that some things cannot be explained. Some things simply exist in the realm of the mysterious. The more you try to force logic onto them, the more elusive they become. The tighter you grip onto reason, the further the mystery seems to drift. It's in this tension that something fascinating occurs. Instead of finding answers, we begin to embrace the mystery itself. There's a quiet beauty in this. When reasoning meets mystery, we are reminded that not everything in life can or should be explained. Some things are simply meant to be experienced. And when we allow ourselves to rest in the mystery without trying to make sense of everything, we open ourselves up to a deeper form of understanding. It's a kind of knowing that comes not from facts or figures, but from experience. It's the kind of knowing that doesn't require an explanation, because it's felt in the heart, not the mind. Consider the stars in the night sky. Science can explain the physics behind them, the way they burn and shine, and the way they're formed. We can reason about their place in the universe, the vastness of space, and the history of the cosmos. But even with all this knowledge, there's still a mystery to the stars. They remain an awe-inspiring sight, a reminder of how small we are in the grand scheme of things. No matter how much we understand about them, there's still something we can't quite grasp. And that's the beauty of it. The mystery adds depth to our understanding, making the stars not just objects of study, but symbols of something larger than ourselves. This dance between reasoning and mystery is not something to fear. Instead, it's an invitation to step back and let go of the need for complete answers. It's about accepting that some things cannot be fully understood, and that's okay. It's about embracing the unknown, allowing the mystery to unfold without the pressure to explain or control it. And in this space, we find a certain peace. A peace that comes from knowing that it's okay to not have all the answers. That sometimes, the search for understanding is more valuable than the understanding itself. When reasoning meets mystery, it challenges us to think in new ways. It forces us to expand our thinking, to explore beyond the limits of logic and embrace the possibility that there is more to life than meets the eye. It teaches us humility, reminding us that our minds, as powerful as they are not all-knowing. There is always something more to learn, something more to experience, something more to understand. And in this process we find ourselves growing, not just in knowledge, but in wisdom. We learn to sit with uncertainty, to be okay with the unknown, and to find comfort in the mystery. The beauty of this meeting between reasoning and mystery is that it doesn't require us to abandon logic altogether. We don't have to reject the power of reason to embrace the mystery. Instead, we learn to balance both. We use our reasoning to understand what we can, to explore the known, but we also allow space for the unknown, for the parts of life that don't fit neatly into our frameworks. By doing this, we create room for both reason and mystery to coexist, enriching our lives in ways that logic alone cannot. As you reflect on this, imagine the moments in your life when reason and mystery have intersected. Perhaps it was an experience that left you questioning everything you thought you knew, or a moment when logic seemed to falter and you were left to navigate the unknown. In those moments, you may have felt discomfort, confusion, or even wonder. But in that uncertainty, there was also an opportunity, a chance to embrace the mystery, to let go of the need for answers, and to find peace in the unknown. So, as you sit here, allow yourself to rest in this space where reasoning meets mystery. Let go of the need to have everything figured out. Accept that some things will always remain beyond your understanding, and that's okay. The beauty of life is in its mysteries, and the more we allow ourselves to embrace them, the richer our experience becomes. In this space, where logic and mystery coexist, we find a deeper, more profound connection to the world around us, and to the mysterious, wonderful journey we are all on. 10. Illogical, yet logical. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where something seemed completely illogical, yet it somehow made perfect sense? It's one of those curious moments that can leave you feeling puzzled, yet oddly satisfied with the understanding you've reached. How can something be both illogical and logical at the same time? It's like the mind is tricked into thinking one thing, only for another part of us to realize that, in some mysterious way, it actually works. This paradox, where something that seems unreasonable on the surface turns out to be perfectly rational when examined more closely, invites us to reconsider how we define logic itself. We tend to think of logic as straightforward, predictable, and easy to follow. If something makes sense, it follows the rules of reasoning, right? But what happens when the rules themselves don't seem to apply? What happens when we encounter a situation that defies reason, and yet, in the end, turns out to be right, even if we can't fully explain why. It's a strange experience, isn't it? At first glance, we might feel that something is completely illogical, yet as we dig deeper, we start to see patterns, connections, and truths that we hadn't noticed before. It's like walking into a room filled with chaos, but over time, the disorder begins to form a pattern that we can understand. This is where things start to get interesting. Logic, in its most basic form, is supposed to follow a clear set of rules. If we know how to apply the rules, we can predict the outcome. But sometimes, life doesn't follow those neat and tidy rules. Things happen that don't make sense on the surface, and yet, they turn out to be exactly what's needed. Have you ever had a moment where you were sure something was going to go wrong, but in the end, it worked out better than you imagined? It seemed illogical at first, but the end result told a different story. The idea that something can appear illogical but still be rational challenges our very understanding of how we perceive the world. One reason this happens is because our minds are wired to categorize things quickly. We like to place them into neat little boxes, label them as right or wrong, logical or illogical. It's easier that way. But the world doesn't always cooperate with our need for neatness. Sometimes things are far more complex than they appear. We live in a world full of contradictions, and we often have to learn to embrace that tension. A situation that seems completely irrational in one moment may reveal its logic in the next if we just take the time to understand the bigger picture. Take, for example, some of the most famous inventions in history. Many of them seemed impractical, even absurd, when they were first introduced. The idea of flight, for instance, was once considered utterly illogical. How could something heavier than air ever fly? It defied everything we knew about gravity and physics. But, with time and persistence, those who dared to think beyond conventional logic found a way to make it work. What seemed impossible, even illogical, was eventually shown to be entirely logical in the context of innovation and creativity. In our own lives, we encounter these moments too. Think about decisions you've made that at the time felt like the wrong choice. You might have gone down a path that didn't seem to make sense, whether it was in relationships, career choices, or even something as simple as taking a risk. But looking back, you can see how that illogical choice led to something meaningful, something you couldn't have predicted at the time. This is the power of what seems illogical at first glance, yet, in the end, reveals its own internal logic. The beauty of this paradox is that it forces us to challenge our assumptions and expand our thinking. Logic isn't always as clear-cut as we think. Sometimes the most profound truths emerge from the places where logic seems to break down. This is why it's important to remain open-minded, especially when we encounter situations or ideas that don't immediately make sense. Our ability to recognize the logic in what appears to be illogical can open doors to new possibilities, new perspectives, and new opportunities. The world is full of surprises, and often the most unexpected things lead to the most rewarding outcomes. What makes this phenomenon even more intriguing is how it mirrors the complexity of human nature. We, as individuals, are a perfect example of something that is both illogical and logical. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions don't always follow a strict logical path. We make decisions based on feelings, instincts, and sometimes even random thoughts. In many ways, we are walking contradictions, full of reasons we can't always explain. But that doesn't make us any less rational. In fact, it's these contradictions that make us unique, make us human. We might act irrationally at times, but there's often a deeper logic to our actions that we only realize later. So, what does it mean to truly understand the concept of illogical yet logical? It means embracing the idea that not everything has to make sense right away. Sometimes logic reveals itself gradually, over time, or in ways we didn't expect. It's about being comfortable with uncertainty, with the unknown, and with the unexpected. Life doesn't always follow a predictable path, but that's what makes it interesting. If we can embrace the paradox of being illogical yet logical, we open ourselves up to a world where possibilities are limitless, where even the strangest ideas and the wildest dreams can become reality. In the end, The truth is that the world doesn't always make sense. But maybe that's okay. Maybe the most beautiful things in life are those that defy explanation, and in that mystery we find the logic that truly matters, not the kind that follows the rules, but the kind that embraces the unknown, the unexpected, and the wonderful contradictions that make life so intriguing. Logic and mystery, reason, and irrationality, they don't have to be opposites. In fact, they often work together to create a richer, more meaningful understanding of the world around us. And in that understanding, we find a deeper connection to ourselves, to others, and to the mysteries of life itself. 11. Existential cognitive dissonance. Have you ever felt that deep inner tug, a quiet yet persistent conflict between what you believe about the world and what you experience every day, leaving you with a sense of uneasy wonder? Imagine lying quietly with your eyes closed as your thoughts drift between the known and the unknown, where the comfort of familiar ideas meets the challenge of new perspectives that seem to pull you in different directions. In that stillness, you may notice a feeling that is both intriguing and unsettling. A gentle clash within your mind that we can call existential cognitive dissonance. It is that soft inner voice that asks, "Am I living the life I truly want?" And "How do my beliefs measure up against the vast, often mysterious world I see around me?" This inner conflict may seem at first like a source of anxiety, but as you settle into your calm and gentle space, you come to realize that this tension can be a path to deeper understanding and even peace. This feeling arises when the simple answers we cling to no longer seem enough to describe the full picture of life. It is as if your mind is holding two seemingly opposite ideas, one that tells you everything is as it should be, solid and defined, and another that whispers there is more out there, greater complexities that do not fit neatly into what you once thought was the truth. In the quiet moments before sleep, when the noise of the day fades and your inner world comes to life, you might find yourself questioning the meaning behind your daily routines, the choices you have made, and even the very nature of happiness and fulfillment. It is not a harsh criticism, but rather a gentle, persistent reminder that life is full of layers, each waiting for you to explore them with curious openness rather than with rigid certainty. As you relax into the soft rhythm of your breath and the comforting darkness around you, allow yourself to feel this gentle dissonance without fear. Think of it as a slow dance between two important parts of you, one that seeks order, structure, and clear answers, and another that is drawn to the unknown, the endless possibilities that stretch out like a starlit sky. This inner tug-of-war is not about finding a mistake or fixing something that is broken. Instead, it is an invitation to embrace the richness of your thoughts and feelings. It tells you that it is okay to wonder if there is more to life than the simple stories you have always believed, and it gently nudges you to consider that perhaps every answer you thought you had might open up new mysteries instead of closing them down. In these quiet, reflective moments, your mind begins to see that this tension is a natural part of being human. It is a sign that you are not content to live on autopilot, accepting things without questioning their deeper meaning. Instead, you are engaging with life in a way that keeps you alive to change and growth. It is like standing in a soft rain, where each droplet carries a little bit of both clarity and mystery, both the familiar and the unexpected. As you listen to this internal dialogue, you may find yourself understanding that this conflict is where creativity and personal evolution are born. It pushes you to think deeper, to look for new connections between your past experiences and the future that is yet to unfold. There's a gentle beauty in the way your mind can hold two contrasting ideas at the same time. It is the quiet recognition that life does not always offer simple, single answers. Some nights your thoughts may meander slowly, like soft whispers, in the dark, sharing with you how beautiful it is to be in a state where certainties blend with uncertainties. You begin to notice that the dissonance is not a failure but a natural and even necessary aspect of your inner life. It fuels your desire to learn, to grow, and to see the world from a broader perspective. It teaches you that every belief you once held as absolute can evolve, that the safe space of your known ideas can coexist with the brave space of new, sometimes challenging insights. And as you let these thoughts gently rise and fall like the ocean's tide, you come to a place of acceptance. Imagine sitting by a quiet river at night. The water moves slowly, sometimes rippling with gentle currents that disturb the smooth surface, only to settle again into calm stillness. That steady flow, the moment when the water is both restless and calm at the same time, mirrors the delicate balance in your mind. In this space, every question you have becomes a chance to explore, every conflicting thought a doorway to another part of your inner self. Over time, this balanced tension transforms into a kind of inner music, a soft harmony where different notes may clash yet together create a melody that is uniquely yours. This gentle sound of existence, a blend of questioning and knowing, becomes your companion as you drift into a deeper state of rest. And so, as you lie here, allow the quiet conflict within your mind to be both a teacher and a comfort. Accept that the feeling of existential cognitive dissonance is not something to be resolved in an instant, but rather experienced with patience and care. Recognize that within this tension lies the seed of new ideas, fresh insights, and the beauty of understanding that our lives are not meant to be clear-cut or simple. Embrace the idea that being aware of this inner dialogue, this mix of doubt and wisdom, is a sign of a life that is vibrant and engaged, not one that is dull or unchanging. Here in the stillness, let your breath slowly carry you deeper into a space where even the most conflicting thoughts settle into a peaceful rhythm, easing you into a gentle sleep where your mind can continue to grow softly in the night. Remember that every time you feel this gentle dissonance, it is a sign of your mind's deep engagement with life, an acceptance that it is okay to hold multiple truths at once. It is a reminder that in our search for meaning and understanding, it is normal to feel a little unsure, a little conflicted, and that through this natural struggle, new paths open up for you to explore. In the quiet of your rest, let this thought be a soothing mantra, that the beauty of existence is found not in the absence of doubt, but in the tender space where certainty and uncertainty walk side by side. As you drift deeper, may you find comfort in this balance, like a soft murmur in the dark that reassures you that every part of your inner world, even the dissonant parts, are welcome here, guiding you gently toward a night of restful sleep and dreams filled with gentle revelations. 12. Paradoxical mind states. Have you ever found yourself thinking in ways that seem to contradict each other, where the more you try to figure things out, the more complicated everything becomes? It's a feeling that is oddly familiar, yet hard to put into words. A mental state where two seemingly opposite ideas coexist and dance within the same space. It's as if your mind has entered a strange world where what is true and what isn't can blur together, making everything feel both clearer and more confusing at the same time. This is the beauty of paradoxical mind states. These moments challenge your understanding of the world, forcing you to accept that things aren't always as they appear. They invite you into a quiet space of reflection, where contradictions aren't just allowed, they're essential to your growth. The first time you experience this feeling, you may be confused or even frustrated. Your mind pulls in two different directions, each belief holding weight, and it's hard to know which one to trust. It's like standing at the edge of a forest, unsure whether to take the path that leads deeper into the woods or turn back and follow the familiar road. Both options seem to promise something valuable, but they also seem to cancel each other out. This tug-of-war between two truths is the very essence of paradox. It's not about finding a simple solution. It's about allowing yourself to feel both the pull toward what you know and the allure of what you've yet to discover. In this space, nothing is ever entirely certain. The beauty of paradox is that it doesn't require resolution. It doesn't force you to pick a side or choose one path over another. Instead, it invites you to sit with the tension of opposing ideas and let them exist together. It's a place where your mind is free to explore without the pressure of coming to a quick conclusion. This can feel like a comfortable kind of uncertainty, a place where you're not bound by rigid thoughts, but are free to explore the many possibilities that life presents. Imagine for a moment standing before a mirror, At first you see yourself clearly, but then you begin to notice subtle differences. Maybe you appear taller or shorter, older or younger, depending on how you shift your gaze. Both reflections exist in the same mirror, but they tell different stories. Similarly, paradoxical mind states work in much the same way. They allow you to look at the same situation from multiple perspectives, and suddenly your understanding becomes both richer and more complex. It's like seeing two versions of the same truth, side by side, without needing to decide which one is the correct one. This experience can be both disorienting and liberating. You may feel pulled in different directions, trying to reconcile these contradictions. But paradoxes often open up new ways of thinking. They teach you that life isn't always about having clear answers. Sometimes it's about accepting that the question itself might never have a straightforward solution. Paradoxical mind states remind you that sometimes the answers you seek don't lie in certainty, but in the beautiful, messy space between knowing and not knowing. And that's where true understanding begins. As you relax deeper into this thought, think about how paradoxes show up in your own life. Perhaps you've experienced moments where you felt both happy and sad at the same time, or confident and unsure. You might have loved something deeply, only to feel confused by it at the same time. These feelings seem like contradictions, but they often represent the complexity of the human experience. Embracing these contradictions doesn't make you weak or indecisive. It makes you whole. It means you are living in a world where emotions, thoughts, and experiences aren't just black and white, but a spectrum of color that's rich with depth. This kind of thinking can open up your mind to new possibilities. It encourages you to be more accepting of the unknown, to embrace the idea that the world is not always either or, but both and. This shift in thinking can be incredibly freeing. It allows you to let go of rigid boundaries and judgments, and instead explore the world with an open heart and mind. You begin to understand that paradoxes are not something to be feared. They are something to be welcomed, for they hold the keys to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. Over time, this way of thinking can become a natural part of your life. You may start to notice paradoxical thoughts popping up in your daily life, moments when two opposing ideas come together in surprising harmony. These moments can teach you to be more comfortable with uncertainty, to understand that life's mysteries aren't meant to be solved, but experienced. As you navigate this space, you'll find that these paradoxes don't lead to confusion, they lead to clarity. The more you allow yourself to sit with contradictions, the more you understand that both sides of the paradox are equally true in their own way. As you drift off into a peaceful state, think about how these paradoxical mind states shape your experience of the world. They help you see beyond the surface, beyond simple explanations, and invite you to explore the complexity that lies underneath. You may no longer feel the need to resolve every contradiction. Instead, you might find that embracing the paradox is what gives life its richness. The beauty of this lies in the idea that you don't need to have all the answers to be at peace. You don't need to have everything figured out to feel complete. You just need to be open to the paradox, to the idea that sometimes the questions are just as important as the answers. So, as you enter into the quiet of your mind, remember that paradoxes are not problems to be fixed, but invitations to think more deeply. They are a reminder that life is full of contrasts, complexities, and contradictions, and that's what makes it so fascinating. By embracing these paradoxical mind states, you open yourself to a deeper, more meaningful experience of the world, where every contradiction is an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. As you settle into this peaceful state of mind, feel the comfort in knowing that the contradictions you face are simply part of the beautiful puzzle of life. 13. Awareness. Paradox unveiled. What if the very act of becoming aware of something changes it completely? This is the strange, mysterious space we enter when we talk about the awareness paradox. It begins the moment you try to focus on your own mind, on your thoughts, your presence, your awareness itself, and find that the more you pay attention, the more it seems to slip away or change shape. It's like trying to catch your own shadow, only to find that it moves the moment you reach for it. The idea that awareness can't fully observe itself without being altered is one of the most puzzling yet strangely calming truths of the human mind. It's a quiet puzzle that whispers in the background of your daily life, making you question the nature of who you really are. Imagine closing your eyes and trying to become fully aware of the one who is doing the observing, not the sounds around you, not the thoughts floating in your head, but the actual presence behind it all, the you who is watching. The moment you try to grab it, it's gone. The moment you say, "That's me," you've already made it into an object, not the real observer. This is the heart of the awareness paradox. The observer cannot fully observe itself. Just like a camera can record everything around it but cannot record itself directly, your awareness works in a similar way. It's always on, always watching, but always just out of reach when you try to look at it directly, and yet, even though we can't grasp it completely, we feel it. You know you're aware. You know you're present. But how? Where does that knowing come from? This question leads you deeper into your own mind, into a place where thoughts begin to slow down and a gentle stillness settles in. There's something very peaceful about realizing that not everything has to be solved or understood in a logical way. Sometimes it's enough to sit with the mystery, to let it be, and to feel the quiet presence that exists underneath all the thinking. This is not about finding an answer, but about sinking gently into the experience of being aware itself. As you listen or reflect, notice how your thoughts rise and fall like waves. Some thoughts try to label your experience. I'm feeling calm, or I'm thinking about sleep. But behind all of that, there is something more constant, a still watcher, a soft gaze that never blinks. That's your awareness. You might not be able to describe it in words, but you can feel its presence. It's always there. Not asking questions or making judgments, just noticing. And the more you relax into this space, the more peaceful it becomes. There's no pressure to figure anything out. You can simply be. This paradox opens up a new way of thinking. Instead of always reaching for more thoughts, more ideas, or more clarity, you begin to understand that peace often comes from letting go of the search. By allowing yourself to rest in awareness without trying to define it, you step into a place that feels calm and deep, a place where everything slows down and you can just be with the experience itself. And in that state, the mind no longer needs to fight or fix or label. It just observes, gently and kindly, without resistance. What's even more interesting is how awareness can change what it focuses on. When you bring your attention to a worry or a fear, it seems to grow. When you shift it toward something calming, like the sound of soft rain or your own breathing, your body begins to relax. Awareness in this way is powerful and gentle. It can shape your experience simply by where it chooses to rest. And yet, it is never fully seen. It's always in the background, holding space for everything else. This quiet power is part of what makes the awareness paradox so fascinating. It's always present, always real, but never fully visible. In your everyday life, this paradox can show up in small, unnoticed moments. Like when you're lost in thought and then suddenly snap back into awareness, wondering where your mind just went. Or when you hear your name in a noisy room and become instantly alert, as if awareness flicked on like a light. These little shifts show how awareness is always nearby, even when you're not paying attention to it. And when you do try to focus on it, it changes the very thing you're trying to see. It's a beautiful mystery, one that doesn't need solving, just observing. There's something soothing about accepting this, about knowing that not every question needs a clear answer, that your mind can rest without needing to make everything make sense. In fact, it's in that space, between thoughts, between questions, where real peace begins to grow. You don't have to do anything special. Just sit quietly and notice. Let your awareness be. Let it float gently like a leaf on still water. No need to chase it or name it. It's already with you, closer than anything else. And as you breathe, slowly, deeply, feel how this awareness wraps around your thoughts like a soft blanket. It doesn't fight them. It just lets them come and go. It knows that everything will pass, every thought, every feeling. But awareness stays. Like a quiet witness to the movement of your mind, it never rushes or pushes. It simply watches, gently, with patience, and in that space you can find rest. A deep, honest rest that doesn't ask for anything, just your presence. So tonight, as you drift deeper into calmness, let this awareness be your guide. Not something to control or define, but something to rest in. A presence that is always with you, soft and silent, holding everything gently. Let the paradox remain, a mystery. Let it soothe you, because sometimes peace doesn't come from solving the puzzle. It comes from allowing the mystery to exist and finding comfort in simply being aware. 14. Conscious logic puzzles. Imagine a moment when your mind begins to wander through a labyrinth of ideas, each twist and turn a small puzzle, each piece of logic interwoven with threads of reflection and quiet curiosity. Picture yourself sitting, quietly, feeling the gentle weight of your thoughts as they start to form connections that seem to challenge themselves, offering you a glimpse into an inner world where puzzles of logic are not random, but consciously crafted pieces that invite exploration. In this state, you find that reasoning is not a mechanical process, but a living, breathing dialogue within you, a conversation between your sense of order and your desire to understand the deeper layers of truth behind everyday mysteries. It is as if your thoughts are engaging in a mindful dance, sometimes stepping lightly into clarity, and sometimes circling back into questions, leaving you with the gentle pleasure of pondering without pressure to resolve. In these quiet moments, you may notice that your mind approaches problems much like a painter approaches a canvas, not with immediate solutions in mind, but with an open heart that allows beauty to emerge from the interplay of colors and shapes. Conscious logic puzzles are those thoughtful challenges that appear in the mind, each one carefully constructed through the interplay of intuition, reason, and a touch of mystery. They are puzzles that do not demand swift answers, but rather invite you to sit with them, to let your breath and heartbeat become the rhythm that guides your thoughts. As you let these puzzles form and dissolve, you realize that they are not obstacles at all, but signs of your mind's vibrant activity, a reminder that intelligence, when it meets calm awareness, can transform even the simplest riddle into a journey of self-discovery. Picture yourself contemplating a question that seems, at first glance, as straightforward as counting the steps on a staircase. Yet, as you gaze more closely, you begin to see that each step holds a hidden detail, a memory, a feeling, a nuance of experience that you had not noticed before. In the same way, conscious logic puzzles open up your inner world, revealing layers of thought that are connected not only by reason, but by the soft undercurrent of awareness. It is as if every answer you might give is cloaked in a gentle mystery, prompting you to explore the space between certainty and the unknown. The beauty here is that the process of thinking itself becomes a kind of meditation, a deliberate act of slowing down so that each little puzzle is examined, not only with your analytical mind but with your full present self. There is no need to rush to solve anything. The puzzle is there for you to savor, to let your consciousness wander and appreciate the complexity and simplicity that coexist side by side. As your thoughts flow, you may notice that these conscious logic puzzles are both playful and profound. They challenge you to balance the desire for clear answers with an acceptance of life's inherent uncertainty. Perhaps you find yourself musing over ideas that on one hand seem to follow a strict, almost scientific order, while on the other hand they shimmer with hints of poetic mystery. This duality is not a flaw. It is a feature of your deep inner life. It is a sign that your mind is alive, open, and always questioning, yet also at peace in the midst of that questioning. In these puzzles, you can see that logic has room for its own contradictions, a gentle reminder that sometimes the most satisfying understanding comes not from eliminating ambiguity, but from embracing it as part of what makes the world so beautifully intricate. Imagine lying back and letting your thoughts drift like clouds across the vast sky of your awareness. Each cloud is a thought, a fragment of logic that might seem complete in itself, but when viewed against the limitless backdrop of your mind, it becomes part of a larger, ever-changing picture. There is a comfort in knowing that even when your thoughts twist and turn in unexpected ways, there is an underlying order, a quiet pattern that ties everything together. This is the essence of conscious logic puzzles. They are puzzles that never force you to settle on one single answer, but instead encourage you to explore the journey of discovery itself. They invite you to let go of the need for absolute clarity and to delight in the gradual unfolding of understanding as you move slowly, gently, deeper into your inner sanctuary of thought. In these moments, you may even begin to sense that the puzzles themselves are a mirror of life, complex, unpredictable, and full of beauty in their ambiguity. Just as a great painting can provoke different emotions and interpretations with each glance, so too do these puzzles offer a shifting mosaic of insights. They remind you that life is not always about neat answers, but about the experience of reflecting, questioning, and growing. With every breath, you allow the questions to settle in the corners of your mind, not as burdens, but as gentle invitations to see beyond what is immediately obvious. And in this space, your conscious logic puzzles transform into a graceful dialogue between what you know and what you are beginning to understand in a deeper, more soulful way. There is a profound peace that comes from realizing that you need not rush to solve these puzzles. Instead, you give yourself permission to dwell in the space of inquiry, accepting that the beauty of a question is sometimes more rewarding than the final answer. In doing so, you nurture a sense of calm curiosity, a state of mind where the pursuit of truth is a gentle, flowing process rather than a harsh race against time. You learn to appreciate the subtle interplay between light and shadow in your thoughts, the way that reason and reflection can coexist in a tender balance. And with each moment of mindful reflection, you find that your inner world grows richer, more vivid, and more connected to the simple truth that life is a continuous exploration, meant to be enjoyed one gentle step at a time. As you continue to relax and let the soft light of awareness bathe your thoughts, you begin to understand that these conscious logic puzzles are not meant to be solved like a math equation, but rather experienced like a beautiful piece of music. Their notes, sometimes clear and precise, and at other times lingering in a gentle refrain of uncertainty, combine to create a melody that is uniquely yours. In this melody, every puzzle is a note that contributes to the whole, each one adding depth, character, and nuance to the fabric of your mind. And as you allow yourself to be carried away by this music of thought, you reach a state of calm wonder, where you appreciate not only the individual puzzles, but also the collective harmony they create. So tonight, as you settle into a state of peaceful rest, let your mind wander freely through these conscious logic puzzles. Allow each question to be a soft beacon of light in the quiet darkness, a reminder that the journey of understanding is ever evolving and always filled with gentle surprises. Embrace the paradox that sometimes the joy lies not in finding the answer, but in cherishing the search itself, an endless dance of thought, feeling, and awareness that enriches your entire being. And as you drift into sleep, may the soothing cadence of these puzzles lull you into a deep, refreshing rest, leaving you with the calm assurance that every puzzle, every bit of logic, and every spark of mystery is a cherished part of your unique and ever-unfolding story. 15. Reason under duress. There's something quietly unsettling about the way our mind reacts under pressure. Imagine standing in a room that slowly starts to shrink, not physically but mentally. The walls are your thoughts, the air is your calm, and as pressure builds, your once clear logic begins to fog like glass on a cold morning. It's in this very space that reason finds itself under duress, not broken, but tested. The thoughts you usually rely on, those clean lines of logic that once seemed so simple, start to bend. They twist and turn, and you begin to question whether your reasoning was ever as stable as you thought. This experience doesn't arrive with noise, it comes quietly, creeping in with doubt, making you pause before every decision and wonder if your mind is helping you, or holding you back. You see, reason loves peace. It thrives in calm, where it can organize ideas gently like pages in a book. But when life applies pressure, whether through fear, urgency, or overwhelming emotion, reason must shift. It's not that it disappears, but it becomes distorted, stretching in directions it usually wouldn't go. Think of trying to solve a puzzle while water drips steadily on your shoulder. At first you ignore it, but over time your focus slips, not because the puzzle changed, but because you can no longer give it your full mind. That's what happens when reason is under duress. It's still there, it's still functioning, but it's dancing to a rhythm it didn't choose. What's fascinating is how your thoughts attempt to adapt in these moments. Some will cling tightly to structure, repeating the same ideas over and over as if repetition might bring clarity. Others scatter, leaping from conclusion to conclusion, trying to escape the discomfort of uncertainty. You might find yourself certain of something one minute and then unsure the next, questioning your own thinking as if you're watching yourself from the outside. This is not a weakness. This is your mind's way of staying afloat in waters it didn't expect. Under pressure, the brain protects you by seeking patterns, simplifying, or sometimes even shutting down certain options that feel too risky. Logic doesn't vanish, but it hides behind emotion, waiting for the storm to pass. Sometimes this shift is small, like forgetting a simple task when you're anxious. Other times it's deep and layered, like when you try to explain your feelings, but no words seem quite right. You might second-guess a truth you've known for years, or wonder if your choices still make sense. And in that pause, you learn something profound. Reason is not just about being right. It's about being aware of how fragile thought can become when it's under emotional weight. It teaches you that the mind is not a machine, but a living part of you, sensitive, responsive, and deeply human. There's a kind of beauty in this realization. To understand your reasoning while it's being stretched and tested is to understand yourself more deeply. It's like watching a tree sway in a strong wind. It bends, but doesn't break. And in the way it moves, you learn about its roots. Your thoughts are the same. When they're put under pressure, their movement shows you what they're connected to: your fears, your memories, your hopes. In this way, duress isn't only something to survive, it's something that reveals what lies beneath. You might think of a moment when you were asked to make a big decision while feeling uncertain. Maybe it was a choice about your future, or a conversation you had to have but weren't ready for. In those moments, logic becomes more than a tool. It becomes a companion, not one that always has the right words, but one that stays close, even when it stumbles. And if you can step back and observe this process gently, you'll see that reason under pressure is still reason. It might be less confident, less clean, but it's still trying to help you navigate forward. This is why stillness becomes so powerful. When pressure is high and thoughts are spinning, allowing yourself a moment of quiet can bring back a softer clarity. Breathing slowly, grounding yourself, and remembering that not every answer needs to be immediate creates space for reason to return in its truest form. Sometimes the best thing you can do when your thinking feels scattered is to stop thinking, just for a moment. Let the storm pass, let the weight ease. And then, like a fog lifting in the morning, you'll begin to see again. Not perfectly, but with enough clarity to take the next step. What's important is not to judge your mind for how it behaves under pressure. Instead, recognize its efforts. Appreciate that even in stress, your mind is doing its best to protect, to process, and to help you make sense of what's happening. Reason may not always sound calm when the world around you isn't, but it's still there, waiting, watching, and ready to return when you're ready to listen. As you reflect on this, you might notice how this understanding brings a gentle peace. Knowing that your thoughts are flexible, that they can shift and adapt without losing their value, gives you freedom. You don't have to force clarity. You don't have to solve every problem right away. You just need to stay present, stay kind to your own mind, and allow your reasoning to rest when it needs to. And so, as your thoughts soften and the pace of your mind slows, you may begin to feel a sense of trust, not just in logic, but in your ability to return to it when the time is right. Pressure does not break you. It reshapes you. And in that reshaping, your reason becomes wiser, more resilient, and more deeply connected to the quiet strength within you. Let this awareness settle. Let it soothe you. And as you close your eyes, may you carry with you the calm assurance that even under duress, your thoughts remain a steady guide, gentle, true, and always reaching for understanding. 16. Subtle cerebral twists. Have you ever had a thought that seemed completely normal at first, but then the more you thought about it, the stranger it became? It's like walking into a quiet room and suddenly realizing the floor is tilted ever so slightly. Everything looks the same, but something inside tells you it isn't. This is where subtle cerebral twists live, in those soft, almost invisible shifts in thinking that change how we see things without making a sound. They don't announce themselves with drama or confusion. Instead, they sneak in gently, like a breeze moving a curtain. And before you know it, your entire line of thought has bent slightly, asking you to consider, what if what you believe is only part of the truth? Our minds love structure. We like things to make sense, so when a tiny crack forms in our thoughts, a small contradiction, an unexpected detail, we usually try to seal it quickly. But sometimes, the most interesting ideas come from letting that crack stay open. It's in those moments that a simple question like, what if the opposite is also true, can open up an entirely new way of thinking. You don't need to be confused to be curious. In fact, it's often the smallest mental shifts that lead to the deepest clarity. These twists don't demand answers. They ask only that you pause and feel the tilt. Think about something basic like the idea of time. We all understand it. Seconds, minutes, hours. We measure it, plan by it, live by it. But then you have this quiet thought. What if time isn't as straightforward as we think? What if the past, present, and future are happening in ways we can't fully grasp? Suddenly, the moment you're in doesn't feel as simple. You're still here, still breathing, still aware. But the way you think about time has changed. Not dramatically, just enough to make you wonder. That's a subtle, cerebral twist. It's not a loud question. It's a whisper that lingers. Or take the idea of choice. We make decisions every day. What to eat, what to say, where to go. We believe we're in control. But what if our choices are shaped more by hidden habits, emotions, or even our environment? Then we realize, you might think you're choosing freely, but what if your thoughts were gently guided without you knowing? This doesn't mean we have no control. It means our minds are more complex, more layered than we sometimes admit. And acknowledging this doesn't have to feel heavy. It can be soft, even comforting, to realize there's more to explore within yourself. Subtle twists also show up in the way we view ourselves. You may think you know who you are, your likes, your dislikes, your values. But sometimes, a simple experience can change that without warning. You try a new food, hear a new idea, or meet someone who sees the world differently. And just like that, something shifts inside. Not a full change, but a slight bend in your self-image. You're still you, but now you're more. This gentle stretching of identity isn't scary. It's growth. And it starts with that tiny twist in thought, the moment when the familiar meets the unexpected. The beauty of these mental moments is that they don't need to be resolved. You don't need to figure everything out right away. Subtle cerebral twists invite you to sit with uncertainty, to float in questions instead of swimming toward answers. They teach you to enjoy the mystery, to let go of needing everything to be clear. And in doing so, they quiet the mind. That's why they're perfect for sleep, for relaxation, for winding down. They offer a kind of soft engagement, a way to gently occupy your thoughts while letting your body rest. As you think about these twists, notice how your mind responds. Does it lean in with curiosity? Does it try to resist or explain? Or does it simply observe? There's no right way. Every mind is different, but the act of noticing is powerful in itself. It shows you that your thoughts are not fixed. They can shift, evolve, and stretch without losing their shape. Your mind is not a cage. It's a garden, full of winding paths and hidden corners. And sometimes the most meaningful journeys come from walking slowly through those quiet places without needing a map. Let's say you reflect on something someone once said to you, a small comment, easy to forget. But today, it hits you differently. It opens up a new idea, a new way of seeing, not because the words changed, but because you have. That's another twist, subtle and personal. Our minds are always weaving meaning, even when we don't notice. And when a twist appears, it's not a sign of confusion. It's a sign that your mind is alive, exploring, reaching for understanding in new directions. So now, as you breathe gently and listen to your own thoughts, allow them to move freely. Let them bend, wander, and shift. You don't need to control them. Just follow the trail they leave behind. Like watching smoke curl through the air, there's a calm in simply observing where your mind goes. And with every small twist in your thoughts, you're uncovering something new about the world, about yourself, about the beautiful complexity of being human. Let this idea settle in you like a soft echo. Subtle cerebral twists are not here to challenge your peace. They're here to deepen it. They don't scream for your attention. They invite you gently to notice the space between your thoughts, to rest in the wonder of small mental shifts. And as your thoughts begin to slow, you might find comfort in knowing that even the smallest twists can open doors you never knew existed. Now let your breath soften, let your eyes grow heavy, and let your thoughts twist gently toward stillness. The room is calm, the world is quiet, and your mind, full of quiet wonder, begins to settle, ready to rest, ready to dream, ready to drift. 17. Mystery in logic. Have you ever followed a clear line of thought, one that made perfect sense at first, only to end up in a place that felt strangely uncertain? It's like stepping onto a well-marked trail in the forest, expecting a smooth walk. But as you go deeper, the path begins to fade. The trees grow closer, and suddenly you're not sure if you're still headed in the right direction. That is the mystery hidden inside logic. We often believe logic is clean and sharp, always leading to solid answers. But sometimes, the deeper we think, the more we realize how many questions are hidden in the answers themselves. It's not that the logic is wrong, it's that the logic opens doors we didn't expect. Logic is supposed to help us understand the world. It's like a tool we carry to build sense from confusion. But what happens when the tool itself creates a new kind of confusion? When logic leads us somewhere that feels both right and strange at the same time, this is where mystery lives. Not in chaos or randomness, but right inside the rules we trust. And that's what makes it so fascinating. It doesn't break the rules. It follows them all the way to their quiet, mysterious edge. Imagine someone asking, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? Logically, you might say yes, because sound is just vibration, and the tree still causes that. But at the same time, the idea pulls you into something deeper. What is sound without someone to hear it? What is reality if no one observes it? It's a simple question that starts in logic but ends in wonder. This is the kind of mystery that doesn't scream for answers. It invites you to sit with the unknown. Think about a mirror. You look into it and it shows you a perfect image of yourself, but reversed. Your left is now your right. The image is true and false at the same time. It's not lying, but it's not exactly you either. It feels real and strange in equal measure. That's another quiet example of logic wrapping around itself, forming a loop that doesn't quite settle. You know what you see, but the more you stare, the more you question what you're really looking at. One of the most peaceful things about these mysteries is that they don't demand we solve them. They allow us to wonder without pressure. They offer space instead of stress. And in a world that often pushes us to figure everything out, this soft room of curiosity becomes a place where our minds can finally breathe. You don't need to chase the perfect answer. You can simply float in the feeling of thinking, of exploring, of slowly letting go of the need to explain. Logic and mystery might seem like opposites, but together they form a beautiful balance. Logic gives us structure, like the frame of a house, but mystery gives that house life. It's what fills the space inside, what moves in the shadows and whispers in the corners. Without mystery, logic is cold. Without logic, mystery is confusing. But together they create a space where thought can be both sharp and soft, both clear and dreamy. Have you ever tried to define a word, only to realize that the more you explain it, the less sure you feel about what it really means? That's a logic meeting mystery again. Words are built on rules, but the meanings behind them shift with feeling, time, and place. You can understand the sentence but still feel a sense of something deeper behind it, something you can't quite name. It's like listening to someone speak a truth that goes beyond the words they use. This experience doesn't need to shake your confidence. In fact, it can help you feel more grounded, more curious, more open to the small wonders that hide in plain sight. Because when logic leads you into mystery, you're not lost, you're expanding. Your mind is stretching into new shapes, learning to hold both clarity and question at once. And that's where some of the most peaceful, thoughtful moments live. Late at night, when everything is still, these kinds of thoughts can gently visit. You may lie in bed, eyes closed, thinking about something small, a memory, a question, a pattern, and slowly, without rushing, your mind starts to float. The edges of logic begin to blur, thoughts become lighter, more open. It's not about finding a conclusion, it's about feeling safe enough to wonder. This is where sleep and thought hold hands, where the mind unwinds not through silence but through soft curiosity. Let yourself enjoy that space. Don't hurry through it. Let the mystery settle around you like a calm fog, quiet and kind. Let logic guide you in, and let mystery keep you there. Together, they'll hold your thoughts gently, giving your mind the room to rest while still feeling awake in some quiet, thoughtful way. So as you begin to drift, remember this: not everything needs to be solved. Some thoughts are not puzzles. They're poems. They don't end with answers. They end with feeling. And sometimes that feeling is more real than anything logic alone could offer. Let the mystery inside logic carry you, softly, like a slow-moving river in the night. Let it wrap around your mind like a soft blanket, quiet and deep. And as your breathing slows, you might find that the most restful sleep comes not from emptying your thoughts, but from gently filling them with wonder. 18. Paradox challenges. Thought. What if the very thing you believed to be true suddenly wasn't? What if your own reasoning took a sharp turn, and instead of answers, it left you with more questions? That's the strange magic of a paradox. It sneaks in quietly, dressed in logic, and then gently turns everything upside down. You don't even notice the shift at first. You just keep thinking, following what seems like a normal trail of ideas, until you realize the ground beneath your thoughts has disappeared, and now you're floating in a strange space where reason folds in on itself. Paradoxes have a curious power. They challenge the way we think, not with loud disagreement, but with quiet confusion. They don't argue with your thoughts. Instead, they let your thoughts argue with each other. One side says yes, the other says no, and both sound equally correct. That inner tension is where the challenge lives. It isn't meant to frustrate you. It's there to stretch your mind into new shapes, to help you see that, sometimes, thought itself has limits. Take something as old and simple as this. This sentence is false. It looks harmless at first, even playful. But think about it. If the sentence is true, then it must be false, because that's what it says. But if it's false, then it must be true, because it correctly said it was false. Round and round you go, stuck in a loop that logic can't escape. You're not doing anything wrong by thinking about it. In fact, your brain is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's trying to make sense of something that was never meant to make full sense. This is where paradoxes begin to do something beautiful. They don't just confuse us, they invite us into a deeper way of thinking, They remind us that not everything fits perfectly, not every question has a neat answer, and not every path has a clear end. But that doesn't mean the path isn't worth walking. In fact, the challenge itself becomes the reward. You're not just trying to solve the puzzle, you're learning how your mind reacts to things it can't fully solve. And there's something peaceful in that, something relaxing even, because when you accept that a paradox isn't there to be solved, but to be experienced, your thinking slows down. You stop chasing the answer and start listening to the question. You stop pushing for clarity and start enjoying the softness of thought. You stop needing to win, and you start allowing your mind to wander. That's why paradoxes are perfect for thoughtful moments, especially before sleep. They give your brain something to hold, but not to grip. They offer enough tension to keep you gently awake, but not so much that it keeps you up. Instead, they let your mind rock back and forth between ideas, like a quiet mental lullaby, a soft loop, a gentle twist, just enough to feel but never too sharp to cut. Think of the paradox known as the ship of Theseus. If you replace every part of a ship, one piece at a time, is it still the same ship? And if you take all the old parts and build a new ship from them, which one is really the original? Both feel right, and yet they can't both be. Or maybe they can. The answer depends on how you define same, and suddenly you're not thinking about boats anymore. You're thinking about identity, memory, and change. You're realizing that thought can open more doors than it closes, and that's okay. These moments of quiet confusion aren't signs of failure. They are signs of depth. They show that you are able to hold two ideas at once, even when they don't fit together perfectly. You are able to feel the edges of reason and still rest peacefully inside that space. There's no need to escape it. You can stay here, letting your thoughts float without trying to catch them. You can rest inside the question. Sometimes the best thing about thinking isn't what it teaches you, it's what it frees you from. The pressure to know, the need to explain, the race for answers. Paradoxes stop all that. They are like a slow rain that washes away the noise, leaving only the soft sound of your own curiosity. A space where your mind can stretch out and breathe. And here's the secret. The more you sit with these challenges, the more you grow comfortable with the unknown. You stop fearing confusion. You stop needing everything to fit. You begin to trust your own mind, not because it solves every problem, but because it knows how to gently explore them. That's a quiet kind of confidence, one that doesn't shout but whispers, one that doesn't demand clarity but offers peace. So tonight, as you lie in bed, let the paradox gently swirl in your thoughts. Let it pull you in, not with force, but with wonder. Let it guide you through soft loops of thought, where logic meets mystery, and reason begins to blur into calm. Let it be your companion, not a puzzle, but a presence, not a problem to fix, but a rhythm to feel. And as your thoughts slow and your breathing deepens, you may find that the challenge was never meant to disturb you. It was meant to soothe you, to hold your attention just long enough for your mind to unwind. Let the paradox stay with you, gently repeating itself in the background of your thoughts. Let it rock you to sleep, not with answers, but with the peaceful beauty of not knowing. 19. Cognitive dissonance. Surfacing. Have you ever felt your mind gently tug in two directions at once, as if two thoughts, both important and believable, suddenly decided to argue in whispers? It's not a loud feeling. It doesn't demand attention. Instead, it sits quietly in the back of your awareness, creating a soft unease that's hard to describe. This is the moment when cognitive dissonance begins to surface. It's the strange space where what we believe and what we experience stop, matching up, and our brain tries to make peace between them. It often starts in the smallest ways. You might tell yourself one thing, but do something else. You might hold a belief that feels right, but then face a situation that challenges it. And as your thoughts try to hold both ideas at once, something shifts. It doesn't break, it bends. And in that bend, you begin to feel the quiet pressure of change. Cognitive dissonance is not a mistake in your thinking. It's a natural part of how we grow. When your mind holds two different ideas that don't quite fit, it isn't failing, it's adjusting. Like two puzzle pieces that almost match, your brain starts smoothing the edges. Sometimes it asks questions, sometimes it looks away, and sometimes it simply waits, gently holding the tension while you slowly begin to see things in a new way. In this space, your thoughts begin to stretch. They soften at the edges, letting in new light. And even though it might feel a little strange, there's also something peaceful about it, because the mind isn't racing. It's not rushing toward a solution. It's sitting still with the question, letting it echo quietly through your thoughts. This is why cognitive dissonance can be so calming when we stop fighting it. It invites us to pause, to rest, to look inward, not to judge, but to notice. Why does this feel off? What part of me is asking for attention? And what would it mean to listen to both sides without picking one right away? Sometimes the disagreement is small. You think of yourself as kind, but remember a moment when you snapped at someone. You believe in honesty, but recall a time you avoided the full truth. These don't make you bad or broken, they make you real. And as these small tensions rise to the surface, your mind does something beautiful. It begins to make sense of them, without needing to erase either side. It may help to imagine this process like waves in a still pond. One belief ripples one way, a new experience ripples another. And where they meet, they don't cancel each other out. They create patterns. Complex, beautiful patterns that move across your thoughts in ways you didn't expect. And as those patterns settle, so do you. That's the quiet gift of this moment. You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to get everything to line up. You're simply noticing the lines, the shapes, the ways your mind is learning to hold more than one truth at once. It's a quiet kind of balance, a deep kind of calm. Even in the bigger questions about meaning, purpose, or identity, the feeling is the same. The mind doesn't shout to be heard. It hums softly, letting its questions linger. You begin to see that truth is not always a single point. Sometimes it's a space between, a gentle area where opposites meet and mix, not to fight, but to understand. And in this place, sleep finds you easily, because your thoughts are no longer pulling at each other. They're weaving together slowly and gently, like threads in a soft fabric. Your mind isn't unsettled. It's curious, and curiosity, when held gently, can be one of the most relaxing feelings of all. So let your thoughts wander through the soft tension. Let them ask questions without rushing to answer. Let them sit beside each other, like two old friends who don't always agree, but deeply respect each other. Let the dissonance rise to the surface, not to be solved, but to be seen. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes, imagine those thoughts gently floating. Not heavy, not sharp, just a present, just soft, just enough to hold your awareness without pulling it. And as they slowly fade into the background, your mind begins to quiet, not by force, but by peace. Cognitive dissonance is not a storm. It's a gentle cloud drifting across a wide, calm sky. Let it pass. Let it stay. Let it be part of your thoughts. Cape without fear. You are not broken because your mind holds two ideas at once. You are growing, expanding, becoming more human, more whole, more awake, and at the same time, more ready to sleep. Let that soft paradox rock you gently into rest. Let the mind slow. Let the night begin. 20. Mind under scrutiny. What happens when you gently turn the mirror inward? Not to see your face, but to watch your thoughts. Imagine your mind as a quiet room, and now you're standing just outside the door, listening. Every idea, every doubt, every wandering memory is moving in there, softly speaking to itself. It doesn't know it's being watched, but you are watching. And this simple act changes everything. The moment we begin to examine our thoughts, something subtle begins to shift. Not because the mind is doing something wrong, but because awareness itself is powerful. It doesn't interrupt. It doesn't push. I just noticed. And in that still noticing, the mind slowly begins to show more of itself. Thoughts rise not to hide, but to be seen. Memories float to the surface. Patterns begin to repeat. And suddenly, you're not just thinking. You're observing the act of thinking. This is a soft kind of scrutiny. It's not harsh or judging. It's more like holding a delicate object in your hands, turning it slowly, wondering where it came from and what. It means you begin to ask gentle questions, not to criticize, but to understand. Why did that idea appear just now? Why does that old memory return again and again? Why does this thought bring comfort, while that one brings tension? As your attention deepens, your thoughts start to behave differently. They're aware of being seen. Some quiet down, others rise up. It's like light entering a room that has always been dark. Not blinding light, just enough to start making out the shapes. You begin to see how certain thoughts travel together, how one idea invites another, and another after that. You see how your mind builds small worlds without even trying. But what's even more calming is what you don't have to do. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to change a single thought. Your only task is to witness, to be present, to let the mind unfold, as it naturally does, when someone is quietly listening. And in this act of quiet listening, a deep calm begins to settle in. It might surprise you how much your thoughts want to be known. Not silenced, not erased, just known. Even the strange ones, the repeating ones, the ones you don't always understand, they all carry little pieces of you, little bits of your story. And when you look at them with kindness, they start to soften. They become less demanding, less urgent, more like echoes than alarms. This is the heart of scrutiny without judgment. It's not about control. It's about understanding. It's not about changing your thoughts. It's about sitting with them long enough to hear what they're really saying. And sometimes they're just saying, "I'm still here." That old worry, that childhood dream, that quiet wish you don't say out loud. All of it surfaces. All of it wants space. And you, simply by being present, are giving it that space. As the mind settles under this gentle attention, it begins to trust itself again. It doesn't need to hide. It doesn't need to run. It starts to rest. And you start to rest with it. Because when your thoughts feel seen, they no longer feel the need to shout. They become softer, quieter, slower. Like waves that once crashed against the shore, but now roll in gently, just touching the sand before slipping back. You don't need to know where every thought comes from. You don't need to trace every feeling to its source. You only need to stay with it. Watch. Breathe. Let your awareness stay open. Let the room of your mind stay lit. Not bright, just enough. Enough to see, enough to know, enough to rest. And as you stay with this gentle act of watching, something beautiful begins to happen. You don't just see your mind. You begin to feel something deeper, something behind the thoughts, behind the stories. A quiet, steady presence that isn't thinking, it's simply aware. It doesn't rush, it doesn't ask, it simply is. And the more you rest in that place, the more your body softens, the more your breath slows, the more your mind drifts, not into sleep yet, but into stillness. There's nothing to fix, nothing to control. Only this quiet moment of witnessing. The mind under scrutiny doesn't collapse. It doesn't resist. It simply reveals. And what it reveals, most often, is not chaos, but tenderness. A soft echo of all you've felt, all you've believed, all you've carried. And now you don't have to carry it alone. Now your awareness is holding it with you, gently, like a hand resting over your thoughts. As night deepens and silence wraps around you, let this process continue on its own. Let your mind unfold naturally, softly, slowly. Let your awareness stay gentle and still. You don't need to follow every thought. You don't need to chase answers. You've already done enough. Now it's time to rest, not by escaping your thoughts, but by being with them in peace. Let the scrutiny become serenity. Let the questions fall away. Let the room of your mind grow quieter with every breath. And as you close your eyes, know this: even in the act of watching, even in the act of thinking, there is stillness. And in that stillness, sleep finds you, softly, quietly, without effort, just as it always has. 21. Irony of logic. It begins with a simple idea, something that seems so clear, so obvious, so logical. You follow the steps, everything lines up neatly. Cause and effect. If this, then that. Logic builds a path that feels stable under your feet. You begin to walk with confidence, trusting the clarity of each step. But then something unexpected happens. The path, so straight and clear, suddenly folds in on itself. It twists. It loops. And before you realize it, logic has led you not to clarity, but to confusion. This is the irony of logic. The very tool we use to understand the world can sometimes lead us into the deepest uncertainty. We believe logic should always make things simpler, that it should help us sort truth from illusion. And often it does. But there are moments, curious, quiet moments, when logic doesn't behave the way we expect. It reveals not answers, but questions, not clarity, but mystery. And that is where things become truly interesting. Imagine trying to explain something that you know to be true, but the more you explain, the less sense it makes. Each step seems right on its own, but taken together, they loop back in strange ways, like trying to chase your own shadow. You think you're moving forward, but the moment you turn to look, everything shifts. The logic is still there. But now it feels like a puzzle with no edge, no center. Only patterns that repeat in ways you can't quite hold. This happens in small moments, too. You might be thinking through a decision. You line up all the reasons, all the facts. You weigh the outcomes. And just when you feel certain, suddenly a new thought enters. A detail you missed, a feeling you hadn't noticed. And now, everything shifts again. Logic didn't fail you. It simply showed you that not all questions have neat answers. Sometimes, the more clearly we look, the more layers we see. There's something oddly comforting in this, knowing that even logic has its limits, that it can only go so far before it begins to loop or bend. It reminds us that the world is not always as tidy as we want it to be, that our minds, even at their sharpest, sometimes find themselves wandering in circles. But these are not empty circles. They are rich with meaning. Because in those circles, we begin to understand not just the world, but ourselves. You see, the irony of logic isn't a failure. It's a doorway, a quiet invitation to look deeper, to ask different questions. Not always, what is the answer? But sometimes, why do I want an answer? Or, what am I hoping to prove? These questions shift the focus from solving to seeing. And in that shift, something softens. The pressure lifts. We are no longer trapped in the need for perfect understanding. We are simply present with the process. This doesn't mean giving up on reason. It means welcoming its paradoxes, holding space for the strange ways it moves, allowing ourselves to rest in the beauty of not knowing fully. Because logic, at its most profound, isn't about control. It's about exploration. It's about following a thread, not to tie something up neatly, but to see where it leads. And sometimes it leads us into the most unexpected places. Think of classic paradoxes, the kind where every statement seems true on its own, but together they break down. They don't make sense, and yet they feel perfectly reasonable. It's like standing in a hall of mirrors, where every reflection is just a little off, but all of them still look like you. These paradoxes don't exist to confuse us. They exist to wake us up, to remind us that thought is not always linear. That understanding isn't always about solving. Sometimes it's about simply being with the question. As you relax into this space, you may notice something calming about it. The pressure to find answers fades. The need to resolve every contradiction melts away. You are no longer trying to force the mind into a perfect shape. You are watching it unfold in its natural form, twisting, looping, reflecting, pausing. And in this state, even the most puzzling thoughts begin to feel gentle. The irony of logic is not something to fear. It's something to welcome. It shows us that even our strongest tools can surprise us, that even in systems built on clarity, there can be wonder. And this wonder is not chaotic, it is soft. It holds us in a space of curiosity, a space where we can think deeply without pressure, a space where we can breathe inside questions without needing answers right away. So if you find yourself caught in one of these loops, if your mind seems to be dancing in circles instead of moving in straight lines, take a moment to pause. Let go of the need to reach a conclusion. Instead, simply watch. Let the logic twist and turn. Let the questions echo gently. There is peace in that echo. There is rest in that rhythm. And as your breath slows and your thoughts soften, you'll notice that the mind, even in its most ironic states, is still beautiful, still kind, still full of quiet truths waiting to be felt, if not always fully explained. In that space, sleep comes not as an escape from thinking, but as a natural part of it, like a thought gently closing its eyes. Let yourself follow it. Let the logic fade into softness. Let your awareness drift into stillness. There is nothing left to solve. Only a peaceful mind ready to rest. 22. Illusion meets clarity. Imagine standing at the edge of a dream where everything you once believed to be real begins to blur like watercolors mixing on a canvas, only to gradually reveal a quiet truth hidden beneath the surface. In this gentle space, illusion and clarity become intertwined, merging to form a delicate balance that both fascinates and soothes the mind. You might feel as if you are watching the dawn slowly break over a dark horizon, where every moment of uncertainty is gradually replaced by a soft rising light of understanding. It is here in this dim liminal space that the mind finds both its questions and its gentle answers, a state where what seems unreal can quietly unfold into something clear and deeply reassuring. As you let your thoughts drift with the natural rhythm of your breathing, you begin to notice that the images you once held as absolute begin to waver, like reflections in a pond disturbed by a light breeze. At first, the images, memories, beliefs, and even long-held opinions appear shrouded in a mist of uncertainty. Yet, as you move closer into the stillness of this moment, the mist starts to lift. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the vague outlines of those ideas sharpen into a form that feels both new and comfortingly familiar. This is the magic when illusion meets clarity. Your mind is gently invited to look beyond the surface, to see that the confusion which once clouded your thoughts is simply a part of an ever-changing landscape that ultimately leads you to a deeper sense of truth. In this quiet interplay, you realize that not every illusion is meant to be banished, nor does every unclear thought need to be solved immediately. Instead, they dance together in a kind of harmonious rhythm. The temporary fuzziness of illusion allows you to relax, free from the constant pressure to be right or to hold on to things in their most definite form. And as the haze gradually lifts, clarity emerges, not as a harsh spotlight but as a soft, enveloping glow that embraces you. It is as if the mind is learning to let go of rigid distinctions, welcoming the beauty of an evolving truth where each moment of uncertainty can lead to a new, more radiant understanding. Think of it like sitting by a gently flowing river. At times, the water appears murky, its surface swirling with reflections that distort what lies beneath. Yet, as the current calms, the water becomes clear, revealing the smooth stones and delicate life teeming quietly at its bed. This process reminds us that our thoughts, too, can evolve. The illusions that once seemed so imposing may eventually give way to clarity when we simply allow ourselves to remain present. To accept that confusion is not a barrier but a bridge. Every fleeting moment of vagueness can open up into a broader perspective, where what once seemed unreal dissolves into an understanding that feels both natural and profound. In those moments, when the mind wavers between shadows and light, you might sense an inner dialogue, a quiet conversation between the parts of you that cling to certainty and those that lean into the gentle unknown. It is in this dialogue that truth begins to emerge. You start to understand that the very things you once dismissed as mere illusions can be the stepping stones toward a more authentic, nuanced clarity. Each illusion, whether it be a lingering doubt or a half-remembered dream, adds texture to the rich tapestry of your inner world. And slowly, through the unhurried passage of thought, clarity emerges not as a final answer, but as a soft understanding that grows and reshapes with every gentle breath you take. Imagine a time when you questioned a long-held belief, only to realize that beneath the surface of your conviction lay layers of hidden meaning you had never noticed before. Perhaps you once saw a situation in stark black and white and later discovered a series of subtle shades in between, each one adding depth to your initial understanding. That shift, that transformation from a rigid, one-dimensional view to a more fluid, evolving insight is the embodiment of when illusion meets clarity. It speaks to the nature of the human mind, which is not static, but ever-changing. Here, amidst the gentle interplay of uncertainty and insight, lies the promise of growth. You begin to see that every moment of seeming illusion is a chance to renew your perspective, to let go of the old and welcome the new. There is a soothing calm in embracing this process. When illusion meets clarity, you learn not to rush towards immediate answers, but to allow yourself the freedom to be present with each fleeting thought. In that unhurried state, you discover that the mind is not a battleground for conflicting ideas, but a peaceful garden where every seed, whether born of doubt or of certainty, has the chance to blossom in its own time. The interplay of shadows and light is not a sign of weakness. It is a natural unfolding of understanding that invites you to trust your inner wisdom. And as you lie back, letting these soft reflections wash over you, you are filled with a sense of quiet reassurance that comes from knowing that life itself is a gentle blend of ever-changing moments, some hazy, some clear, yet all intrinsically beautiful. As you settle deeper into this sensation, allow yourself to be carried along by the current of your thoughts. Feel that subtle shift as past illusions dissolve into present clarity, each one leaving behind a gentle echo that adds richness to your overall awareness. It is in these still hours, when your mind is free from the clamor of daily concerns, that you can fully appreciate how even the fleeting appearance of uncertainty can gently reveal deeper truths. There is a freedom in accepting that not every moment needs to be defined, that sometimes the most meaningful insights come when you let go of the need for absolute precision and instead dwell in the soft interplay of experience. Let the gentle clash between illusion and clarity become your companion in these quiet hours. Allow it to remind you that life is meant to be experienced in its entirety, both the blurred and the bright. As your thoughts meander through this space, notice how comforting it is to know that clarity can emerge naturally from the very things you once found confusing. It is a silent conversation between what is known and what is possible, a slow dance that invites you to explore without the burden of instant resolution. And in the soothing passage of time, as you drift toward sleep, you may find that the melding of illusion and clarity brings not only rest, but a renewed sense of calm and wonder. Tonight, let this gentle fusion be your guide, easing your mind into a state of peaceful reflection. As you breathe deeply, feel the soft transitions between what seems uncertain and what is clearly understood. Recognize that every moment of doubt is simply part of an ongoing process of uncovering deeper layers of truth, a process that, in its own right, is both comforting and inspiring. And as the quiet night embraces you, allow these blended sensations to lull you into a restful state, where the delicate meeting of illusion and clarity becomes the canvas upon which your dreams gently take shape. 23. Simplicity births complexity. It often begins with something small, a single thought, a quiet observation, or a tiny moment that seems almost too ordinary to notice. Yet somehow it holds more than it appears. Just like a seed, so small and simple, contains within it the pattern of an entire tree. Our smallest ideas can grow into the most intricate and beautiful understandings. In the stillness of the mind, where everything slows down and distractions fade, you start to see how the most complex thoughts often begin with something profoundly simple. Simplicity is not the opposite of depth. It is the very doorway to it, and once you step through, you begin to understand just how much beauty and wonder can emerge from the most basic things. As you breathe gently and let your body relax, you may notice how often the mind looks for something big, something impressive, to find meaning. But what if meaning is not hidden in loud answers, but whispered through quiet beginnings? Think of the way a single note can lead to a song, or how a basic line on a blank canvas becomes part of a painting filled with color, shape, and emotion. Simplicity, in its truest form, is not emptiness, it has potential. It is the starting point where nothing has been added or complicated yet, and because of that, it holds endless possibilities. When you rest in that space, free from pressure or noise, you can begin to notice how the mind opens up and allows something deeper to take shape. There's something deeply calming about knowing that you don't have to start with answers. You don't have to begin with grand thoughts or difficult questions. You can begin with the simplest of things: a breath, a feeling, a word. And from that still, soft place, something greater can unfold. Complexity doesn't rush in all at once. It forms gently, layer by layer, thought by thought. It doesn't confuse or overwhelm when it grows naturally. Instead, it feels like the unfolding of a flower, slow and effortless. Each petal reveals itself in its own time, creating something detailed and whole, but only because it began with a single bud, a simple shape waiting quietly to bloom. This way of seeing allows you to release the need for everything to make sense right away. When you trust the process of simplicity, you stop forcing meaning and allow it to rise gently from within. You might notice how a small memory, something you hadn't thought about in years, suddenly connects with something else you've been feeling, or how a short phrase, something someone once said, starts to echo through your mind, weaving itself into a bigger realization. These connections, these quiet pieces coming together, form the beautiful complexity that your mind is capable of, but only when it is allowed to begin simply, with space and time. Sometimes we forget that nature itself follows this rhythm. Mountains rise from low pressure, oceans shape themselves one wave at a time. Even the stars we see at night were once born from clouds of dust. The most complex things did not arrive fully formed. They came from slow, patient beginnings. And so it is with thought, with reflection, and with growth. The more we honor the simplicity of the start, the more gently and richly complexity can arrive. It doesn't push. It doesn't shout. It waits for the quiet moment when we are ready to see it, feel it, and let it expand in its own peaceful way. And as you sit with this idea, you may notice how your thoughts begin to stretch and move in different directions. You are not rushing them. You are not trying to control where they go. You are simply letting them rise, letting them explore. In that space, one thought gives rise to another. One idea deepens into something more. It's almost like watching a tree grow, not with urgency, but with trust. The roots form first, unseen but steady. Then the branches reach out. Then the leaves appear, each one bringing color, life, and movement. And in the end, the tree stands tall, full of shape and form, but it only got there because it began with a seed. This pattern shows itself again and again in our lives. A short walk can turn into a new insight. A gentle conversation can bring a long-awaited feeling of peace. A quiet moment at the end of the day can bring a sense of connection to something much bigger than ourselves. When we allow things to begin simply, we leave room for them to surprise us. We let go of control and open ourselves to discovery. And what we discover is often more meaningful than anything we could have planned or predicted. In this way, complexity doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like a gift. It feels like something that rises from the still waters of simplicity, not to confuse us, but to show us how many layers there are to life, how many quiet truths are hidden in plain sight. And the more we relax into this truth, the more peaceful and present we become. We stop chasing answers and start listening to what is already here. slowly unfolding beneath the surface of our minds. As you rest with this thought, imagine your own experiences, moments when something simple became something meaningful. Maybe it was the first time you noticed the rhythm of your breath, or the sound of rain outside your window, or the comfort of a familiar voice. These are not complex moments on their own, but somehow they become the start of something bigger, a realization, a connection, a shift in understanding. That is the beauty of simplicity. It doesn't stay simple forever. It grows, it deepens, and it reveals more than we expected. So as your mind softens into calmness, know that you don't need to chase complexity to feel something deep or important. You only need to welcome the simple moments, the small beginnings, and let them take you where they need to go. Let your thoughts rise and fall like waves, without force or pressure. Let them form their own shapes, like clouds in a soft sky. And trust that from this gentle space, the most beautiful forms of complexity will arise. Not because you chase them, but because you allowed them to be born from stillness, from ease, and from the quiet magic of simplicity. 24. Order evokes chaos. Sometimes the more we try to control things, the more unpredictable they become. It's almost as if the moment we create a perfect pattern, something unseen begins to unravel it. We line everything up, make plans, set rules, and expect peace to follow. But then something unexpected slips through the cracks. A small change, a shift, a surprise. Suddenly, everything begins to feel uncertain. It's a strange experience, almost like life reminding us that no matter how much order we create, chaos still finds its way in. And yet, instead of resisting it, maybe it's worth exploring what this really means. Order gives us comfort. It creates a sense of safety. When things are in place, we feel like we know where we stand. We create routines, build systems, and draw clear lines so that our days feel manageable. But there's a quiet truth hidden beneath the surface. Sometimes too much order becomes a fragile balance. It stands tall, but one small nudge can shake it. That's because real life isn't always neat. It doesn't always follow our plans. And in those moments when everything slips out of place, we are faced with the other side of the coin: chaos. Chaos is not always loud or destructive. Sometimes it's quiet, creeping in slowly without us even noticing. A sudden change in mood, a shift in perspective, a thought that doesn't fit with what we know. It challenges the lines we've drawn and asks us to look again. At first it can feel uncomfortable, but over time, it shows us something valuable. It shows us that behind every structure is a possibility for transformation, that what we thought was unshakable might have room to grow in ways we never expected. This balance between order and chaos is part of everything. In nature, we see it clearly. Forests grow with patterns, yet no two trees are the same. Rivers flow in curves, always changing direction slightly over time. Even the stars above, while they move in precise orbits, are born from clouds of disorder. The universe itself seems to speak in this language, creating order only to let chaos reshape it again. And somehow, through that dance, beauty is born. Not from perfect control, but from the tension between structure and the unknown. In our minds, the same pattern exists. We create ways to think, to understand, to explain. These mental structures help us navigate the world. But every once in a while, something disrupts our thoughts. A dream, a deep question, a contradiction. It doesn't fit neatly into the boxes we've built, and so we are forced to stretch, forced to wonder. And in that wonder, new thoughts emerge, new insights, new ways of being. It's as if the mind, when shaken by just enough chaos, finds a more meaningful order than the one it had before. Even in our personal lives, this theme appears. We make plans, simple, clear, and well thought out, but then something unexpected happens. A delay, a miscommunication, a sudden feeling we didn't predict. It feels like everything is breaking apart. But then slowly, something new forms from it. We realize something we didn't see before. we learn, we change. And when the dust settles, we often find ourselves stronger, softer, or wiser than before. This doesn't mean that chaos is always easy, but it often brings growth in ways order alone cannot. When we begin to accept this truth, something shifts inside. We stop seeing chaos as a failure of control and start seeing it as part of the design. We begin to welcome the unexpected, knowing it might carry something valuable. It's like watching a painting come to life, not with perfect clean lines, but with brushstrokes that go in surprising directions. The result may not be what we first imagined, but it often holds more depth, more feeling, more life. This way of thinking brings a sense of peace. It reminds us that we don't have to hold everything tightly. We don't need to force every detail to stay in line. Instead, we can allow space for curiosity, for change, for mystery. We can trust that even when things fall apart, something meaningful can rise. This doesn't mean giving up on structure. It means understanding that true balance lies not in choosing one or the other, but in holding both, order and chaos, at the same time, and letting them shape each other. In this space, where thoughts flow without pressure and emotions drift without resistance, the mind begins to relax. It no longer needs to make everything fit. It just observes. It notices the shifts, the rhythms, the rising and falling patterns. It sees that chaos doesn't destroy. It transforms. And that order doesn't end up changing. It sets the stage for it. Together they form a cycle, like night and day, like inhale and exhale. One makes space for the other, and in their dance, life unfolds. So as you rest now, let this thought settle into you, that even when things seem uncertain, even when plans unravel and thoughts twist into unfamiliar shapes, you are not lost. You are simply moving through the rhythm of order and chaos, a rhythm that has existed long before you were aware of it, and one that will continue long after. Trust that there is wisdom in the unfolding, that even in moments of disorder there is a quiet force at work, one that is guiding you, not away from yourself, but deeper into understanding. Let your thoughts flow freely now, without needing to control or organize them. Let your breath rise and fall, natural and unforced. And as you soften into rest, know that you are safe in the space between what is known and what is still becoming. You are resting not in confusion, but in possibility, in the quiet dance between order and chaos, where all things are born, shaped, and renewed. 25. Deep Paradox Whispers. Have you ever experienced a moment where the more you think, the less you seem to understand? It's as though the deeper you dive into a thought, the more it starts to dissolve, turning into something that feels both familiar and foreign at the same time. These are the whispers of paradox. Quiet, subtle, but impossible to ignore once you've heard them. They don't come with loud statements or clear-cut answers. Instead, they slip in between your thoughts, gently nudging you to see things in a new way, inviting you to reconsider everything you thought you knew. Paradoxes are strange because they make you feel both certain and uncertain at once. On the surface, they seem contradictory, but on a deeper level, they begin to reveal a hidden truth, something that exists only when two opposing ideas coexist. This is the nature of deep paradox. It doesn't force you to choose a side, but rather invites you to embrace the complexity of both sides, even when they seem impossible to reconcile. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. You know it's there, but you can't grasp it all at once. The paradox is that the more you try to understand, the more it slips away from the confines of simple explanation. One of the most intriguing aspects of paradox is how it challenges the way we view the world. We often rely on logic and structure to make sense of everything around us. We want things to be clear, to fit neatly into categories, to follow a linear path from point A to point B. But paradox defies that. It calls us to question the very nature of certainty. It's not interested in providing clear-cut answers. Instead, it asks us to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty and to embrace the mystery of the unknown. This kind of thinking isn't something that comes naturally to many of us. Most of us are conditioned to seek resolution, to find an answer, to solve the puzzle, to arrive at a destination. But paradox works in the opposite direction. It slows you down, making you pause and reflect on the space between what you know and what you don't. It asks you to look beyond the surface, to see the connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, and to understand that sometimes the most profound truths lie in the tension between opposing forces. Consider for a moment the paradox of time. We think of time as a constant, something that ticks forward inexorably, moment by moment. But time, when you think about it deeply, is also incredibly fluid. It can stretch and contract, speeding up during moments of joy and slowing down during moments of sorrow. We all experience it differently, and yet it's a force that binds us all. Time is both real and an illusion. It's both measurable and ungraspable. The paradox is that we live with it every day, unaware of how deeply it shapes our lives. Then there's the paradox of choice. In a world where we are constantly told that we have endless options, we often find ourselves feeling more confused and overwhelmed than ever. The more choices we have, the harder it becomes to make a decision. The freedom that should empower us instead traps us in a state of indecision. We think that having more options should lead to more happiness, but in reality, it often leads to more anxiety. It's a paradox that many of us struggle with, because the more we try to control our choices, the more they seem to control us. These paradoxes are everywhere, woven into the fabric of our existence. They are not problems to be solved, but mysteries to be explored. The more we dive into them, the more we realize that the answers are not always what we expect. In fact, the answers themselves may change as we grow, as our understanding deepens. This is the beauty of paradox. It's never stagnant. It's always evolving, inviting us to think again, to question, and to explore the unknown with a sense of wonder rather than frustration. In our daily lives, we can experience paradoxes in our relationships, in our work, and in our personal growth. We may feel that we need to be in control, that we need to have everything figured out. But paradox teaches us that sometimes, the more we let go, the more we find. It's in the space between our thoughts, between the known and the unknown, where we discover new possibilities. Paradox is a teacher, one that asks us to trust the process, to embrace the contradictions, and to let our understanding evolve with time. There's a certain comfort in knowing that not everything can be explained, that not every question has a clear answer. In fact, some of the most profound moments of insight come from realizing that the questions themselves may be more important than the answers. By allowing the paradoxes of life to exist without forcing them to resolve, we open ourselves to deeper understanding. We stop looking for certainty and begin to appreciate the beauty of ambiguity. So, as you relax and drift into a peaceful state, let yourself embrace the whispers of paradox. Let them gently guide your thoughts without the need to solve them or make sense of them. Allow yourself to feel the pull of opposing ideas and let them coexist without the pressure of choosing one over the other. In the quiet moments of reflection, you may find that the paradoxes you've encountered in life aren't obstacles to understanding, but stepping stones to greater wisdom. As you breathe deeply and settle into the calm, remember that the mysteries of life are not meant to be understood all at once. They unfold slowly like a story that reveals itself line by line without rushing to the end. And in this unfolding, paradox plays a crucial role, guiding you gently through the complexities of existence. With each breath, let go of the need for answers and simply be with the mystery. In the stillness, you might find that paradox isn't something to solve. It's something to experience, to live with, and to grow from. 26. Calm contradictory truths. Have you ever stopped to think about how things that seem completely opposite can somehow coexist in our lives? It's almost as if life itself has a way of gently inviting us to embrace these contradictions. It's as if the more we try to separate opposing truths, the more they seem to draw closer to one another. It's a quiet but powerful force, one that gently tugs at our thoughts, encouraging us to see beyond the surface and accept the beauty of the contradictions we experience every day. This is where calm, contradictory truths begin to reveal themselves. They don't shout for our attention or demand answers. Instead, they quietly make their presence felt, offering us a chance to explore the complex nature of reality without the need to resolve every opposing force. For example, we are often told that peace comes from having everything under control. Yet in reality, some of our most peaceful moments come when we let go of control entirely. This paradox might seem unsettling at first, but over time, we begin to understand that there's a certain serenity in embracing uncertainty. It's not about finding the perfect answer, it's about understanding that there's wisdom in the balance between certainty and uncertainty. As you reflect on this, it becomes clear that some of life's most meaningful experiences arise from moments of contrast. Think about how light and darkness work together to create the world around us. We can't fully appreciate the brightness of the day without the quiet calm of the night. The darkness isn't something we should fear. It's simply a necessary part of the cycle, helping us to understand the light. These contradictions, like the balance between night and day, work in harmony to create a world of deep, calming truths. In many ways, they are two sides of the same coin, inseparable, yet distinct, each enhancing the other's existence. It's easy to overlook how contradictions shape our emotional landscape as well. We might feel immense joy even in the face of sadness, or find moments of clarity during times of confusion. These seemingly opposing emotions coexist in our hearts, often at the same time, creating a deep, nuanced experience of life. It's in this space of emotional complexity where calm, contradictory truths flourish. For instance, the grief we experience when we lose someone can lead to a greater appreciation for the moments we have with others. In this way, the sorrow of loss is not just a feeling to endure, but a teacher, guiding us toward a deeper understanding of love and connection. This blending of opposites isn't just limited to our emotions, it extends to our thoughts, our actions, and even our beliefs. In fact, some of the most profound realizations in life come when we allow ourselves to hold seemingly conflicting ideas at the same time. A simple example of this is the idea that we must learn to embrace both change and stability. We are told that change is constant and inevitable, yet we also crave stability, something solid to hold on to. The truth is, both are necessary for a balanced life. Change without stability can feel chaotic, while stability without change can lead to stagnation. The calm that comes from accepting both aspects, change and stability, creates a deep sense of peace that allows us to move through life with grace. When we dive deeper into the nature of contradictory truths, we begin to understand that they are not enemies, but rather complementary forces that give our lives depth and meaning. They challenge us to rethink what we know and encourage us to explore the spaces between certainty and ambiguity. This exploration doesn't need to be rushed. It's a process of discovery, one that unfolds over time, slowly revealing the beauty of life's contradictions. Take a moment to think about how you relate to the world around you. You may find that the more you observe, the more you see these contradictions playing out everywhere. We live in a world where technology connects us, yet often creates a sense of isolation. We value independence, yet we thrive on community. We seek success, yet sometimes find fulfillment in moments of stillness. These contradictions don't need to be resolved. They simply are. And in accepting them, we open ourselves up to a deeper, more peaceful understanding of our place in the world. It's important to remember that life doesn't always have to make sense in the way we expect it to. In fact, sometimes the most meaningful moments arise from letting go of our need for answers. When we can sit with the discomfort of contradictory truths and simply allow them to exist, we open ourselves to a new kind of understanding, one that is rooted in acceptance rather than resolution. This is the heart of calm, contradictory truths, the ability to hold space for opposing forces without the need to force them into harmony. The more we practice this, the more we begin to feel at ease with the contradictions that arise in our daily lives. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, we start to see them as opportunities for growth and insight. It's in the quiet acceptance of these contradictions that we discover a deeper sense of peace, one that doesn't require us to solve everything, but instead encourages us to embrace the mystery of life. So, as you reflect on these ideas, let yourself relax into the paradox of life. Let the contradictions be a source of calm rather than confusion. Understand that life's most profound truths often emerge from the spaces where opposites meet. And remember, you don't need to understand everything at once. Sometimes, the most powerful insights come not from figuring things out, but from allowing them to simply be. In this peaceful space of acceptance, the contradictory truths of life can coexist, gently guiding us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. 27. Eerie logic unfolds. Have you ever experienced a moment when everything feels oddly out of place, yet it somehow makes perfect sense? It's as if the world around you suddenly shifts into a different rhythm, one that seems strange and unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting at the same time. This unsettling yet captivating feeling can often be traced back to what we might call eerie logic. It's a kind of logic that doesn't follow the usual rules we're accustomed to. It challenges the way we think, forces us to question what we know, and opens up a world of mysterious possibilities. It's not a chaotic or random force, but rather a subtle, quiet unfolding of truths that don't fit neatly into our usual understanding. At first, the eerie nature of this logic can leave us feeling unsettled. We're used to things making sense in a way that feels safe and predictable. But when that predictability starts to fade, when we encounter a logic that feels almost supernatural, it's easy to feel as though we've lost control. And yet, in this very loss, we begin to find something deeper, something that's been hidden just beneath the surface all along. Eerie logic isn't here to confuse us or make us uncomfortable for the sake of it. It's here to invite us to see beyond the obvious, to look into the shadows of our understanding and find a deeper clarity. Think about those moments when you've felt as though something is happening just out of sight, where the pieces don't fully align, but you can feel the connection. There's a certain eeriness in those times, when the rational world seems to be turned upside down, yet somehow everything fits together perfectly. It's like watching a puzzle slowly come together, but instead of a bright, clear image, you're left with something strange, abstract, yet undeniably real. This is the essence of eerie logic, the ability to recognize patterns and truths that aren't immediately obvious, but which, when discovered, feel like they've always been there. In life, we often encounter situations where logic and reason don't seem to explain things fully. Maybe it's an inexplicable feeling that something is about to happen, or a strange coincidence that seems too perfect to be a mere chance. These moments might feel like anomalies, but they are, in fact, part of a larger, more complex form of logic that exists beneath the surface. This kind of logic is not easily grasped with the usual tools of analysis and reason. It requires a different kind of understanding, one that's more intuitive, more open to the mysterious connections that tie everything together. This eerie logic also shows up when we encounter things that seem impossible, yet happen anyway. Think of those moments in life when everything seems to fall into place just when we need it most. Perhaps you've had a conversation that felt like it was meant to happen, or an event that seemed to be directed by an unseen hand. At first glance, these things may seem like mere coincidence, but if you step back and reflect, you might begin to see a pattern. The logic isn't clear, and it's not something we can easily predict, but it's there, working quietly in the background, shaping the course of our lives in ways that are both eerie and beautiful. What makes eerie logic so compelling is its ability to take us out of our comfort zones and into the unknown. It doesn't offer easy answers or clear explanations. Instead, it invites us to explore the uncertainty, to find meaning in the ambiguity. It asks us to trust that even in the most confusing moments, there's something more at play, something that might not be immediately visible, but is nonetheless significant. It's like a whisper in the dark, a subtle pull that guides us toward a deeper understanding, even when we don't fully comprehend it. Sometimes, this kind of logic appears in our thoughts, in the way we come to conclusions that don't seem to follow the usual patterns of reasoning. We might make decisions that feel right, even though they don't seem to fit the conventional logic we've been taught. It's as though our minds are tapping into a deeper sense of knowing, one that doesn't rely on the facts at hand, but rather on something more intuitive. This eerie sense of knowing, this logic that doesn't always make sense on the surface, can be incredibly powerful. It allows us to see the world in a new way, one that isn't confined by the limitations of what's visible and measurable. In many ways, eerie logic is a reminder that life is far more mysterious and complex than we often give it credit for. It encourages us to let go of the need for certainty and control, and to accept that there are many forces at play that we may never fully understand. Yet in this very acceptance, we find a sense of peace. The eerie logic isn't something to fear or resist. It's simply an invitation to let go of our rigid expectations and to trust in the unfolding of life, no matter how strange or unexpected it may seem. The beauty of eerie logic is that it doesn't require us to fully understand everything. It doesn't demand that we find neat answers or perfect solutions. Instead, it asks us to be present with the mystery, to sit with the discomfort of the unknown, and to trust that in time, the pieces will fall into place. It teaches us that not everything has to be rational or logical in the traditional sense for it to be real or meaningful. In fact, sometimes the most profound truths are the ones that are felt rather than understood. As you reflect on the idea of eerie logic, you may begin to notice its presence in your own life. Maybe it's in the moments when things don't quite make sense, yet feel deeply true. Perhaps it's in the quiet moments of intuition, when you feel that something is unfolding just beneath the surface. Eerie logic is everywhere, quietly shaping our thoughts, our decisions, and our experiences, and while it may never fully reveal itself in a way we can completely grasp, it's there, guiding us through the uncertainty and mystery of life, reminding us that sometimes the most powerful truths are the ones we can't always explain. 28. Reality redefined gently. Have you ever experienced a moment where the way you view the world seems to subtly shift, almost as if reality itself was being redefined right before your eyes? It's not a dramatic change, but more of a soft, gradual unfolding, a quiet transformation that makes you question what you thought you knew. It's as if your understanding of reality has been gently adjusted, allowing you to see things in a new light, without the overwhelming feeling of change that usually comes with big shifts. This quiet redefinition of reality is not something that happens in an instant, but rather over time, as small moments of clarity begin to accumulate and build upon each other. Reality as we know it is often taken for granted. We live in a world where things are generally expected to be predictable, stable, and familiar. We know what to expect when we wake up, we understand how things work around us, and our beliefs often stay rooted in what we've always known. But there are times when the edges of this reality begin to blur, when something subtle begins to shift the way we see everything. It could be a moment of insight, a quiet realization, or a simple change in perspective, but whatever it is, it has the power to gently redefine everything we thought was set in stone. What's so fascinating about this kind of redefinition is how it doesn't demand attention in the way that a dramatic event does. There's no sudden upheaval, no jarring moment that forces us to rethink everything at once. Instead, it happens slowly, like a gentle breeze that shifts the course of a river without anyone noticing. At first it may seem insignificant, almost imperceptible, but as time passes, we begin to notice the subtle changes. Our thoughts begin to flow in new directions, our feelings become more open, and our view of the world softens. We realize that our previous understanding of reality, though comforting, was limited, and that there's so much more to see, feel, and experience than we ever imagined. This gradual redefinition of reality allows us to explore a deeper connection with the world around us. We begin to see things not just for what they appear to be on the surface, but for what they truly are beneath the surface. The colors of the world seem richer, the sounds clearer, and even the air feels different. It's as if we're seeing everything through a new lens, one that is softer and more accepting, more willing to embrace the fluidity and complexity of life. This change isn't forceful or confrontational. It's quiet and subtle, unfolding in a way that feels natural and organic, almost like a new chapter in a story that has been unfolding all along. As we begin to question and explore this new reality, we find that it's not about changing the world itself, but rather changing how we engage with it. The world around us hasn't necessarily changed, but our perception of it has. We start to realize that reality is not fixed or rigid, but rather a dynamic, ever-changing experience that is shaped by our thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. This realization can be both humbling and liberating. It's humbling because it shows us that what we thought we knew may not be the full picture, and it's liberating because it opens up endless possibilities for how we can experience and interact with the world. One of the most profound aspects of this gentle redefinition of reality is that it encourages us to let go of the need for certainty. In a world that often values logic, structure, and predictability, it can be easy to cling to what we think we know. We want answers, we want control, and we want a clear path forward. But this subtle shift in perception invites us to release that grip and embrace the unknown. It's not about abandoning logic or reason, but rather about recognizing that there's a wisdom in uncertainty, a beauty in not knowing everything. When we allow ourselves to embrace this, we find that life becomes much richer and more fulfilling. The gentle redefinition of reality also helps us recognize the interconnectedness of all things. As we begin to see the world with fresh eyes, we start to notice the intricate connections that weave everything together. We see how our actions affect others, how nature moves in harmony, and how the smallest moments can have the greatest impact. This new perspective allows us to approach life with greater compassion, understanding, and appreciation. We become more aware of the subtle shifts that take place within us and around us, and we begin to see the beauty in these quiet transformations. This process of redefining reality is not about discarding what we've known, but about expanding our understanding. It's about realizing that there's always more to discover, more layers to uncover, and more dimensions to explore. We start to understand that reality is not just a fixed set of facts, but a fluid, ever-evolving experience that is shaped by our perception. By gently letting go of old ideas and embracing new perspectives, we can unlock a deeper, more meaningful connection to the world. As we experience this subtle redefinition, we also begin to develop a sense of inner peace. Instead of constantly striving for certainty or pushing against the unknown, we learn to flow with life as it is. We begin to trust in the process, knowing that even in moments of uncertainty, there is beauty and wisdom waiting to be discovered. This peace comes from the realization that we don't need to have all the answers, that it's okay to not know everything, and that life is a journey of exploration rather than a destination to reach. The quiet unfolding of reality encourages us to live with more openness and curiosity. We start to question the assumptions we've held for so long, not with a sense of doubt, but with a sense of wonder. We begin to ask ourselves deeper questions. What if there's more to life than what we've been taught? What if reality is not as fixed as we once believed? These questions don't lead us to confusion or frustration, but to a greater sense of clarity and possibility. As we explore the edges of our understanding, we discover that the answers we seek are not always out there in the world, but within us. In the end, the gentle redefinition of reality invites us to live more fully and authentically. It encourages us to embrace the uncertainty, to appreciate the subtle changes, and to trust that life is unfolding exactly as it should. By letting go of rigid expectations and allowing ourselves to experience life with an open heart and mind, we discover a world that is richer, more connected, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. Reality, in its most profound sense, is not something fixed or unchangeable. It is something that is constantly being shaped, redefined, and experienced in new and unexpected ways. And as we embrace this gentle unfolding, we begin to see the world with a deeper sense of clarity and wonder, recognizing that reality, in all its complexity, is exactly what it needs to be. 29. Unexpected rational enigmas. Have you ever encountered a situation where something that makes perfect sense on the surface turns out to be surprisingly puzzling when you dive a little deeper? It's as though logic and reason, the very things we rely on to make sense of the world suddenly create an enigma, an unexpected puzzle that challenges the way we think. These moments can be confusing, unsettling even, but they also invite us to explore the boundaries of what we know and to embrace the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our understanding. It's in these moments when rationality seems to lead us into unexpected territory that we begin to discover new ways of thinking, new perspectives on reality, and new ways of engaging with the world. At first, it may seem like a paradox, something that feels both familiar and strange at the same time. We look at a situation and everything appears to make sense, but then we realize there's something about it that doesn't quite fit. Maybe it's a piece of information that doesn't line up with our expectations, or perhaps it's a pattern that seems to break its own rules. Whatever it is, it challenges our perception and forces us to pause and reflect. We begin to question how something so rational, so grounded in reason, can also feel so uncertain, so mysterious. These unexpected rational enigmas are not about abandoning logic or reason, but about expanding our understanding of what logic can mean. Logic, in its traditional sense, is supposed to offer clarity, a way to cut through confusion and arrive at the truth. Yet, when we encounter these enigmas, we see that logic doesn't always provide the clear answers we expect. Instead, it opens up a space for deeper exploration and discovery. The very structure of our reasoning can, at times, lead us into unexpected territory, revealing complexities we never anticipated. It's as if reason itself is inviting us to look beyond the surface, to question the assumptions we take for granted, and to entertain the possibility that the world may be more complicated than we once thought. What makes these rational enigmas so compelling is that they don't necessarily challenge our intelligence or our ability to think logically. Rather, they challenge the assumptions we have about the world and our place in it. They remind us that our understanding is always evolving and that even our most well-constructed ideas can be upended by something new, something unexpected. These enigmas can come in many forms: a moment of self-reflection that brings up feelings we didn't anticipate, an event in the world that defies our usual patterns of thinking, or even a conversation that causes us to rethink what we thought we knew. Each of these moments invites us to slow down, to dig deeper, and to embrace the mystery that lies beneath the surface of our thoughts. In some ways, these rational enigmas can be unsettling. After all, we are taught to trust our reasoning, to rely on logic as a guiding force in our decision-making. We are conditioned to believe that if we can just figure things out logically, we will have control over our lives and our environment. But what happens when logic doesn't lead us to the answers we expect? What happens when rationality opens up more questions than it answers? This is where the magic of these enigmas lies, the space they create for curiosity, exploration, and wonder. They invite us to step outside the confines of our usual ways of thinking and to see the world from a new angle. These moments of unexpected rationality are also a reminder that life itself is full of contradictions and complexities. Just as we can experience joy and sorrow in the same moment, or certainty and doubt in the same thought, we can also encounter situations where logic leads us to an answer that feels both true and false at the same time. It's not that the logic is wrong. It's that our understanding of the world is more nuanced than we may have realized. This complexity is what makes life so rich and interesting. The more we open ourselves to these contradictions, the more we begin to understand that truth is not always as straightforward as it seems. It's often layered, multifaceted, and open to interpretation, depending on our perspective. The beauty of these unexpected rational enigmas is that they push us to grow. They force us to stretch our thinking, to break free from old patterns, and to embrace a deeper, more fluid understanding of the world. When we encounter these moments, we are given the opportunity to let go of rigid thinking and to explore the gray areas that exist between what we know and what we don't. Instead of seeing these enigmas as obstacles, we can view them as invitations to learn, to expand, and to grow. They challenge us to be comfortable with uncertainty, to accept that we don't always have all the answers, and to recognize that the process of seeking understanding is just as valuable as the answers we find. These enigmas also highlight the importance of embracing curiosity and wonder. When we encounter something that doesn't quite fit, our first instinct might be to try to resolve it, to force it into a box where it makes sense. But sometimes, the greatest insights come not from solving the puzzle, but from sitting with it, observing it from different angles, and allowing it to unfold naturally. By giving ourselves permission to be curious, we open the door to new discoveries and deeper connections with the world around us. We begin to appreciate that life is not about finding all the answers, but about embracing the questions and exploring the mysteries that life presents. The unexpected nature of these rational enigmas also teaches us that there is always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand. Even in the moments when things seem clear and rational, there are layers waiting to be uncovered, mysteries waiting to be explored. It's a reminder that our knowledge and understanding are never fully complete. They are always evolving, always expanding. Every answer leads to new questions, and every discovery opens up new avenues of exploration. This is the beauty of the human experience, the constant opportunity to learn, to grow, and to expand our horizons. As we reflect on these unexpected, rational enigmas, we are reminded that life is not a simple equation to be solved, but a complex, ever-evolving story to be lived. The questions we face, the mysteries we encounter, and the contradictions we experience are not obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities for deeper understanding. They encourage us to approach life with a sense of openness, curiosity, and wonder, knowing that the journey of exploration is just as important as the destination itself. These enigmas, in all their mystery, serve as a gentle reminder that the more we question, the more we discover, and the more we discover, the more we realize how much there is still to learn. Have you ever encountered a situation where something that makes perfect sense on the surface turns out to be surprisingly puzzling when you dive a little deeper? It's as though logic and reason, the very things we rely on to make sense of the world, suddenly create an enigma, an unexpected puzzle that challenges the way we think. These moments can be confusing, unsettling even, but they also invite us to explore the boundaries of what we know and to embrace the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our understanding. It's in these moments when rationality seems to lead us into unexpected territory that we begin to discover new ways of thinking, new perspectives on reality, and new ways of engaging with the world. At first, it may seem like a paradox, something that feels both familiar and strange at the same time. We look at a situation and everything appears to make sense, but then we realize there's something about it that doesn't quite fit. Maybe it's a piece of information that doesn't line up with our expectations, or perhaps it's a pattern that seems to break its own rules. Whatever it is, it challenges our perception and forces us to pause and reflect. We begin to question how something so rational, so grounded in reason, can also feel so uncertain, so mysterious. These unexpected rational enigmas are not about abandoning logic or reason, but about expanding our understanding of what logic can mean. Logic, in its traditional sense, is supposed to offer clarity, a way to cut through confusion and arrive at the truth. Yet, when we encounter these enigmas, we see that logic doesn't always provide the clear answers we expect. Instead, it opens up a space for deeper exploration and discovery. The very structure of our reasoning can, at times, lead us into unexpected territory, revealing complexities we never anticipated. It's as if reason itself is inviting us to look beyond the surface, to question the assumptions we take for granted, and to entertain the possibility that the world may be more complicated than we once thought. What makes these rational enigmas so compelling is that they don't necessarily challenge our intelligence or our ability to think logically. Rather, they challenge the assumptions we have about the world and our place in it. They remind us that our understanding is always evolving and that even our most well-constructed ideas can be upended by something new, something unexpected. These enigmas can come in many forms: a moment of self-reflection that brings up feelings we didn't anticipate, an event in the world that defies our usual patterns of thinking, or even a conversation that causes us to rethink what we thought we knew. Each of these moments invites us to slow down, to dig deeper, and to embrace the mystery that lies beneath the surface of our thoughts. In some ways, these rational enigmas can be unsettling. After all, we are taught to trust our reasoning, to rely on logic as a guiding force in our decision-making. We are conditioned to believe that if we can just figure things out logically, we will have control over our lives and our environment. But what happens when logic doesn't lead us to the answers we expect? What happens when rationality opens up more questions than it answers? This is where the magic of these enigmas lies, the space they create for curiosity, exploration, and wonder. They invite us to step outside the confines of our usual ways of thinking and to see the world from a new angle. These moments of unexpected rationality are also a reminder that life itself is full of contradictions and complexities. Just as we can experience joy and sorrow in the same moment, or certainty and doubt in the same thought, we can also encounter situations where logic leads us to an answer that feels both true and false at the same time. It's not that the logic is wrong. It's that our understanding of the world is more nuanced than we may have realized. This complexity is what makes life so rich and interesting. The more we open ourselves to these contradictions, the more we begin to understand that truth is not always as straightforward as it seems. It's often layered, multifaceted, and open to interpretation, depending on our perspective. The beauty of these unexpected rational enigmas is that they push us to grow. They force us to stretch our thinking, to break free from old patterns, and to embrace a deeper, more fluid understanding of the world. When we encounter these moments, we are given the opportunity to let go of rigid thinking and to explore the gray areas that exist between what we know and what we don't. Instead of seeing these enigmas as obstacles, we can view them as invitations to learn, to expand, and to grow. They challenge us to be comfortable with uncertainty, to accept that we don't always have all the answers, and to recognize that the process of seeking understanding is just as valuable as the answers we find. These enigmas also highlight the importance of embracing curiosity and wonder. When we encounter something that doesn't quite fit, our first instinct might be to try to resolve it, to force it into a box where it makes sense. But sometimes, the greatest insights come not from solving the puzzle, but from sitting with it, observing it from different angles, and allowing it to unfold naturally. By giving ourselves permission to be curious, we open the door to new discoveries and deeper connections with the world around us. We begin to appreciate that life is not about finding all the answers, but about embracing the questions and exploring the mysteries that life presents. The unexpected nature of these rational enigmas also teaches us that there is always more to learn, more to explore, and more to understand. Even in the moments when things seem clear and rational, there are layers waiting to be uncovered, mysteries waiting to be explored. It's a reminder that our knowledge and understanding are never fully complete. They are always evolving, always expanding. Every answer leads to new questions, and every discovery opens up new avenues of exploration. This is the beauty of the human experience, the constant opportunity to learn, to grow, and to expand our horizons. As we reflect on these unexpected, rational enigmas, we are reminded that life is not a simple equation to be solved, but a complex, ever-evolving story to be lived. The questions we face, the mysteries we encounter, and the contradictions we experience are not obstacles to be overcome, but opportunities for deeper understanding. They encourage us to approach life with a sense of openness, curiosity, and wonder, knowing that the journey of exploration is just as important as the destination itself. These enigmas, in all their mystery, serve as a gentle reminder that the more we question, the more we discover, and the more we discover, the more we realize how much there is still to learn. 30. Sleep guides. Paradox. Sleep, often considered a simple and natural part of our daily routine, holds a quiet but powerful mystery. It's a paradox in itself, a process we rely on for rest and rejuvenation, yet one that can also stir up some of life's most profound questions. We go to sleep seeking peace, clarity, and comfort, but sometimes we wake up with a sense of confusion, as though sleep has guided us into a place where logic and reason no longer follow their usual paths. In these moments, we experience what feels like a paradox. Sleep, something that should be restorative and grounding, can sometimes lead us into the deepest of questions, the kind that challenges our understanding of reality, existence, and ourselves. When we close our eyes each night, we enter a world where time behaves differently. Our awareness shifts from the tangible to the intangible. We often forget the world around us, yet, in that forgetting, we find something deeper, something that lies hidden beneath the surface of our waking thoughts. Sleep, in all its quiet and mysterious beauty, creates a space where contradictions can coexist. It's a state where we can feel both completely at peace and, in the very next moment, adrift in a sea of dreams that are both bizarre and profound. In this paradox, we find that sleep is not just a time for our bodies to rest, but for our minds to wander, explore, and encounter ideas that don't always fit within the rules we use during the day. One of the most intriguing aspects of sleep is its ability to guide us into states of consciousness that we cannot fully control. It's as though sleep opens a door to a part of our minds that is often locked during the day. During sleep, the usual boundaries we place around our thoughts and perceptions begin to dissolve. What was once clear and structured may become distorted, and what seemed impossible may suddenly appear to make sense. This fluidity of thought during sleep can feel paradoxical. How can something so natural and necessary lead us into such strange and uncharted territories? What's fascinating is that this paradox doesn't just exist in the dreams we experience, but also in the state of mind we find ourselves in as we transition between wakefulness and sleep. In those quiet moments before we fall asleep, when our thoughts start to drift, we may experience a sense of suspension, as if we are on the edge of two worlds. In one moment we may feel fully awake, but in the next, we are slipping into a world where the rules of reality no longer apply. Sleep becomes a guide, leading us into a state of paradox where we are both aware and unaware, both in control and completely surrendered. It's a space where the boundaries of time and logic blur, and where our mind is free to explore without the constraints of daytime reasoning. In this paradox, sleep serves not just as a time for rest, but as an invitation to embrace uncertainty. It's a reminder that not everything needs to make sense or fit neatly into the framework we use to navigate our waking lives. The world of sleep challenges our usual definitions of clarity and order, offering instead a more fluid and open-ended experience. It invites us to accept that some things, like our dreams or the feeling of being in between sleep and wakefulness, are simply beyond our full comprehension. We don't need to understand everything. Sometimes the beauty of sleep lies in the mystery it offers. It is in these moments that we may experience a deeper sense of connection to something greater than ourselves, a realization that there is more to life than meets the eye. The paradox of sleep also extends to the way we understand rest. We often think of sleep as something passive, something we simply do when we need to recharge. However, sleep has its own rhythms, its own flow, and it doesn't always work on our terms. It may be elusive when we need it most, and yet, when we least expect it, it may arrive with a sense of calmness and clarity that we didn't know we were seeking. This unpredictability of sleep creates its own paradox. We want it, but sometimes it feels like it slips away from us just when we need it. And when it does arrive, it brings with it a sense of peace and stillness that can't always be explained. This rhythm, this ebb and flow of sleep, reflects the very nature of paradox itself, the pull between effort and surrender, between striving and letting go. There's also an element of transformation within this paradox of sleep. When we wake up from sleep, we often feel as though we have returned from a journey that may have taken us to places we never expected to go. Our dreams may have been strange, vivid, or even unsettling. Yet when we wake up, we often find ourselves with new insights or a sense of clarity we didn't have before. In this sense, sleep acts as a guide to our inner world, leading us through experiences and feelings that may not make sense at the time, but somehow, upon waking, reveal a deeper understanding of ourselves or the world around us. It's as though sleep, in its quiet and gentle way, helps us piece together parts of our inner landscape that we may not have fully recognized while awake. This guiding paradox is especially true when we consider the emotional and psychological effects of sleep. After a restful night, we may find ourselves feeling more balanced, more centered, as if the mind and body have worked together to process the events of the day. Yet sometimes, sleep doesn't offer this kind of clarity. Instead, it brings up unresolved feelings, fears, or uncertainties, making us face the things we've been avoiding. These moments can feel uncomfortable, but they also offer us a chance for growth. Sleep in these moments acts as a guide that takes us to the edges of our consciousness, helping us confront the things we may not be ready to face when we're awake. In this way, sleep leads us into paradoxical spaces where clarity is often born from the tension between the known and the unknown. Ultimately, sleep's paradoxical nature lies in its power to both calm and disturb. It offers us rest, but it also invites us into a world of dreams and thoughts that can be as mysterious as they are meaningful. The beauty of this paradox is that it reminds us of the complexity of our inner worlds. Sleep doesn't simply allow us to escape, it guides us through a journey of exploration, inviting us to confront, reflect, and grow. In its quiet way, sleep teaches us to embrace the unknown, to accept that not everything needs to be understood, and to trust that sometimes the most profound truths arise from the most unexpected places.